welcome one and all to, not really Razorfist Arcade, but Streaming for Vengeance, where we will once again agonize over the fate of our country as we watch two moldering old Muppets debate the future of the free world, as if either of them have a fucking chance. For the record, we are going to be altering the audio and video a bit. I'm going to turn down the audio a bit. I apologize for that. I'm going to try and make it so you can still hear. If you can't hear so well, maybe try headphones or something, just in case. They're just starting right now, so let me make sure everything is set. All right, cool. Thank you all for joining me on Streaming for Vengeance, and without further ado, let's go ahead and turn up the radio. I need the music, gotta get me some more.
Unimaginable. A week ago, schools have been canceled for more than 25 million students.
And none of it is Democratic fear-mongering.
March Madness, NBA
For those who don't know, we were copyright claimed on the last stream, so we're going to take some extreme measures to try and... Extreme measures to try and forestall that.
Be canceled or postponed. What do you say to the American people who are confronting this new reality?
First of all, my heart goes out to those who have already lost someone, or those
who better to talk about coronavirus than two men who will almost certainly die from it.
One of us. This calls for a national rallying to everybody move together. And you know, I laid out in detail what I would do if were I president today.
He does look like death.
I laid it out in significant detail. But there are three pieces of this. First of all, I have to take care of those who
the
are
audio's
exposed or likely to be exposed to the virus. And that means we have to do testing. We have to get the testing kits up and ready. I would have the World Health Organization. I'd take advantage of the test kits they have available to us, even though the president says 1 million or more are coming. Let's just get all the tests we can done as quickly as we can. Secondly,
I'd like to see you take a few tests, Joe Biden.
10 places
Maybe a memory test.
Drive-through testing arrangements. I would also, at this point, deal with the need to begin to plan for the need for additional hospital beds. We have that capacity in the Department of Defense.
And please give me one, for God's sakes.
As well as with the...
Are you my family?
They can set up 100-bed, 500-bed hospitals in tents quickly. We have to lay all that out. But we have to deal with the economic fallout quickly. And that means making sure the people who, in fact, lose
you
their
can tell
job,
he
don't
wrote
get a
these
paycheck,
talking points
can't pay
before the
mortgage,
2,000-point
and
spike
pay them
on
now.
Friday.
Do it now. Small businesses be able
This is
to
the
borrow
trouble with
interest-free
preparing for a
loans.
debate too
I see
far in
my time
advance.
is up here. You're going to hold us tightly, I assume. But that's what I would do. Go to joebiden.com.
Check me out. My name's Joe. I'm running for the Senate. If you don't like what you see, vote for the other Bernie. I mean, what?
Anthony Fauci acknowledged that it's possible that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans, could die.
Wow. No fear-mongering here.
If you were president right now, what's the most
Boy,
important thing you
CNN.
would do tonight?
If you guys missed the
Trying to
pre-show
save
on
American
CNN,
lives?
oh my God, the fear-mongering.
Whether or not I'm president, is to shut this president up right now. Because he is undermining the doctors and the scientists who are trying to help the Americans. It is unacceptable for him to be blabbering with unfactual information which is confusing the general public.
What did he say that wasn't factual? Seems to me he's pretty much left the speaking role about coronavirus to Mike Pence.
Person in this country finally understands
Mike Pence is strapping some electrodes to the problem.
Coronavirus, that that all payments will be made, that they don't have to worry about coming up with money for
Jetang into healthcare. Here we go.
For treatment. This is an unprecedented moment.
You know, if socialized medicine is so boss, Bernie, why didn't you fly to Canada for your fucking heart surgery?
But right now, in this emergency, I want every person in this country to understand that when you get sick, you go to the doctor. When you get sick, if you
thanks
have the
for-
virus, that will be paid for. Do not worry about the costs right now because we're in the middle of a national emergency.
Let me pump up the debate
we have to
just
make
a
sure that our
little
hospitals
on their
have the
side.
ventilators that they need, have the IC units that they need. Right now, we have a lack of medical personnel, and I worry very much that if there is a peak, whether we have the capability...
I'm not turning it up, guys. I'm not getting copyright claimed again. If you can't hear it real well, just plug in the headphones.
To deal with the unprecedented crisis.
Because we'll get shit hammered otherwise. Hell, we might get shit hammered anyways.
The American people If
'Cause
you
what's
lose
fair
your
use,
job,
right?
You will be made whole. You're not going to lose income. If Trump can put, or the Fed can put $1.5 trillion into the banking system, we can protect the wages of every worker in America.
Not that
Thank you, Senator.
Bidonas
Vice
don't
President Biden,
appreciate it.
President Trump says he does not take any responsibility for the problems with coronavirus testing, in part because he says he inherited so many rules, regulations, and red tape. Did bureaucratic red tape hamper this response in any way?
No, look.
No,
the
it's
World
not like
Health
we were
Organization
impeaching him. I mean, what the fuck?
offers
Shit.
the testing kits that they have available and to give it to.
Can you imagine how much more quickly we
refused.
could have dealt with this
We did
fucking
not
problem if
wanna
we
buy
weren't
them.
dealing with
We
that
did not wanna
three-ring
get them
fucking
from them.
circus
We
back in
wanted to make
January?
sure we had our own.
Can
I
you
think said
imagine?
something like,
That's
we're
why
the
we're
best
talking
scientists
about
in
Trump.
America,
That's why the full
or
court
something to
press
that effect.
exists. Because if
The
we're not,
idea that we
if
are not
if we're not
prepared
talking
for
about
this
how
and
Trump's a
not-
dick, then
and
we
the
would
other
be
thing I
talking
wanna
about
point
how
out,
the
and I agree with
impeachment
Bernie,
slowed our
we're in a
response to
situation
this.
where we have
'Cause
to
it did,
now be
objectively.
providing for the hospitals that are going to be needed now. The present system
I need a
cannot
hospital.
handle the surge that is
Who the
likely
hell
to
are
come.
you?
So we should already be sitting down and planning where
Make
we're
way
gonna
for the
put these
Joe
temporary
Pedo!
hospitals. And we can do that. We did that. We've been through this before with the coronavirus. We've been through this before. Excuse me. We've been
Oh,
through this
God.
before with
We have our first
dealing with the
Biden
viruses
gaffe.
The N1H1
Excuse me,
virus, as well as what happened in Africa.
Welcome to the
We
continuing
provided these
saga of Joe
hospitals
Biden's
dealing
valiant
with
fight
these
against the
great
English language and the common
pandemics,
sense of
and we were
every
able to
American
do it
voter.
quickly, and people would have a place to go. But we also have to provide the equipment to protect the first responders, and that's not being done either.
Senator Sanders, on that note, and you both of you have addressed this, but obviously,
Here you go,
another
guys. I
major
got
health
hairy
concern right now,
legs.
for
Did he
officials
say
to protect
N1H1?
infections all
He
at
did.
once. Overburdening hospitals, the healthcare system, you mentioned ICU beds, both of you, and ventilators. We're already in the middle of flu
shit.
season,
I
so
do
already
need a
lot of
gaff
those beds
counter. Oh,
and
shit.
ventilators are
I
already
should have
being
thought
used.
about that
If you were
before the stream. I could have set
president
that
right
up.
now, what would you do to make sure
We'll
every
have to
sick
do that for the
American
main
is able to get
debates with
treatment so the
Trump,
US does not
'cause Bernie ain't
suffer
gonna
the
be a
same
fucking
fate
nominee.
as Italy,
Look how
where
confused Bernie
doctors
looks.
have to decide right now who gets life-saving treatment and who does not.
Jake, let's be honest and understand.
Let's be
that
honest
this
for fucking once.
Virus
None of my shit is affordable.
pandemic exposes the incredible weakness and dysfunctionality of our current healthcare system.
Dysfunctionality is not a word.
Now, we're spending twice as much per person on healthcare as the people of any other country.
Oh, God.
How in
Here we
God's
go.
name does it happen that we end up with 87 million
Oh,
people
gosh.
who are uninsured or underinsured, and there are people who are watching this program tonight who say, I'm not feeling well. Should I go to the doctor? But I can't afford to go to the doctor. What happens if I
I
am
can't
sick?
afford to go to the
It's going
doctor.
to cost thousands of dollars for treatment. Who's going to feed my kids? We
You!
are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people.
Bernie's
We're
just
spending
pissed
so
the
much
food
money,
shortages
yet
weren't caused
we
by
are
the
not even
nationalization of
prepared
agriculture.
For this pandemic. How come we don't have enough doctors?
In
How
fairness,
come
you'd probably
hospitals
want to
in rural
nationalize
areas
agriculture
are
too if a
shutting down?
skeleton in a
How
robe had
come
been chasing
people
you
can't
around with a
afford to
scythe for
get
the past
the
15
prescription
fucking years,
drugs
let's
they
be
need?
real.
Because we have a bunch of crooks who are running the pharmaceutical industry, ripping us off every single day. And I'll tell you something right now. In the midst of this epidemic, you got people in the pharmaceutical industry are saying, oh, wow, what an opportunity to make a fortune. So the word has got to go out, and I certainly would do this.
Oh,
as
sorry.
president.
Is there echo
You
from
don't
my
worry.
speakers?
People of
Let me
America
turn
do not
that
worry
down
about
just
the
a smidge.
cost of prescription drugs. Do not worry about the
The
cost
crooks.
of the health care
The
that you're going to
crooks.
get, because we are a nation, a civilized
Also, my
democratic
mic
society.
might be a
Everybody,
little
rich
loud.
and poor,
That might
middle
actually
class,
help you hear
will
the
get
stream
care
a
they
little
need.
if I
The
shut
drug companies
myself
will
up a
not
little
rip us
bit.
off.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President
Okay.
Biden,
Is
some
that better?
medical experts are
Well.
saying the only true way to control this virus is through a national
They don't
quarantine,
deserve to be in black and white. I
requiring
agree.
every American other than
But it
essential
helps with the
personnel
copyright,
to stay
so.
home. Would you take that unprecedented step of a national lockdown?
What I would do
National
is what we did
lockdown.
under our
Holy
administration.
shit.
I would
That's a
call
good
a
thing.
meeting in the Situation Room of all the experts in America dealing with this crisis. I would sit them down and I would do exactly what we did then.
Hairy
What is
legs
it that we
2020.
need? Listen to the experts. What do we need? And with all due respect to
Yeah.
Medicare for all,
Who
you
better
have
to
a
fix the
single-payer
system
system in
than
Italy.
two men who have
It doesn't
been in
work
the
there.
system for
It has
50
nothing
fucking
to
years?
do with Medicare for all. That would not solve the problem at all. We can take care of that right now by making sure that no one has to pay for treatment. Period.
Is
because
there
of the
anything more
crisis.
symbolic
No
of
one
the
has to
modern
pay for whatever
Democratic
drugs are
Party
needed,
than two
period, because of the
gun-grabbing
crisis.
socialist
No one has to
mumbling
pay for
platitudes to an
hospitalization
empty
because of the
arena?
crisis, period.
Like-
That is a national emergency, and that's how
This
it's
couldn't
handled.
be any more
It is not
symbolic if
working
someone
in
painted
Italy
a
right
melting
now, and they
clock
have a
on the
single
wall
payer
behind
system.
both of them.
Now, with regard to what else I would do, the fact is that we're in a position where I would bring together the leading experts in the world. Instead of doing this in the United States, instead of doing this piecemeal, sit down and do what we did
The
before.
four
with
horsemen
Ebola
of the
crisis.
apocalypse. The
What
four
is
horse
needed,
faces of the apocalypse.
and have one voice, like we did every day we met in that crisis in the Situation Room, laying out, so we lay out overall for all the nation what the best proposal is.
Tonight's
and
debate
how to
will
move
be
forward.
moderated
In
by the
absence
Grim
of that,
Reaper.
governors are making some sound decisions. They're doing the best they can by
What a
going out
youth
and
movement
getting
they
the
have in the
healthcare
Democratic
experts in
Party
their
today,
communities
huh?
and their states to move. But it
People
should
talk
be
about Biden.
directed
Bernie's
from
so
the White
old his
House,
hammer and
from the
sickle are made out of
Situation
stone.
Room, laying out in detail like we did in the Ebola
Thank you.
crisis, and we beat it.
Thank you. Senator Sanders, your response?
Well, first of all, the dysfunctionality.
Enough
of
with the
current healthcare
dysfunctionality.
system
You could just say
is
dysfunction.
obviously apparent. As I said
Oh, do I
earlier,
need
there
to
are people
actually
who hesitate, go to the doctor. You're going to have a maze of regulations. Well, if this is my income,
There we
if
go.
that's
Sorry,
my
I
income,
couldn't
can
see
I
his
get it?
face.
Can I not get it? Clearly, we are not prepared, and Trump only exacerbates the crisis. When we spend twice as much per
Clearly,
capita
he
on
is
healthcare as any
exacerbating
other
the
nation,
dysfunctionality
one might expect that we
of the
would have enough
rubricosity.
doctors all over this country. One might expect that we would
It's
have
like George
affordable
W. Bush
prescription
isms coming out of
drugs.
Bernie's mouth.
One might expect that we are preparing effectively for a pandemic.
It's like
that we were ready
2006
with
all of
the
a sudden.
ventilators, with the ICUs, with the test kits.
And when he talks
that
about
we
his
need.
politics,
We
it's
are
like
not.
1886.
And bottom line here is, in terms of
By the way, I'd like to
Medicare
thank
for all,
CNN for
despite what the
abruptly
Vice
changing the
President
debate
is
rules
saying,
to
what
deliberately
the
exclude
experts tell us
Tulsi
is that
Gabbard
one
from
of
the
the
only
reasons
debate she's
that
qualified
we
for
are
in 2 fucking
unprepared
months.
and have been
The last thing I want to see on
is we
stage
don't
right now
have
is someone
a
who isn't
system.
actively
We
decaying
got
before our very
thousands
eyes.
of private insurance plans. That is not a system that is prepared.
Tulsi
to
can do
provide healthcare
200
to all
crunches.
people.
Biden
In
just
a
crunches
good
when he
year, without
walks.
the
Like
epidemic,
fucking.
we're losing up to 60,000 people who die every year because they don't get to a doctor on time. And clearly, this crisis is only making
You
a
never
bad
hear
situation
anybody
worse.
dying under the
That has
socialized
nothing
medicine
to
of
do when you're
Italy
in a
right
national
now, huh?
crisis. The national
That's
crisis
working out like a
says
dream,
we're
Bernie.
responding. It's
That's
all free.
that's a regular
You don't have
utopia
to
on
pay for a
Earth.
thing. That has nothing
They're
to
actually
do with
lining
whether or
their
not you have an
streets with
insurance policy.
gumdrops, I hear.
This is a crisis. We're at war with the virus. We're at war with the virus. It has nothing to do with co-pays or anything. We just passed a law saying that you do not have to pay for any of this, period.
That's not
Period.
true.
This-
As a matter of fact, that's not true. That law has enormous
Well
loopholes.
played, Dangerous
I
Spaces.
understand
This,
that Nancy
he said,
Pelosi did
this
her
Tales
best.
from the Crypt
Republicans
remake is
prevented
just
it.
awful.
I-
What you're talking about, Joe, here is enormous.
We have to
loopholes
declare a war
within
on
that,
viruses.
That in fact it is not necessary.
We
to
also
cover
have to
treatment
declare
for all
a war
people
on death.
in America.
We need
and
to
that
invent
people
a
are gonna be
pill
stuck with a
so that
bill
I can ingest it
unless we
and
change
shit
that.
out
And we
death.
will offer
That's what I need.
legislation to in fact change that.
If I may.
That's
I
a good
offered
thing.
Legislation. I laid out on my plan that
Yeah,
it would cover exactly
the
what
audience is
not
empty because of
covered
the
by
smell.
the House. I laid out in the plan that I laid out for how we would deal with this crisis.
Okay.
Nobody will pay for anything having to do with the crisis. This is a national emergency. There isn't a question.
Also,
of whether or
like,
not
we're
this is something
seriously,
that can
you're
be covered
suddenly
by
acting like you
insurance or
give a
anything
shit
else.
for how many
We,
weeks
out
in a
of the
row were the
Treasury, are going
Democrats
to
just
pay for
pretending this
this.
wasn't a
It's
crisis
a
at all? I don't even
national
think they
emergency.
mentioned
That's what my
coronavirus
plan
until the
calls for.
very
But the
last
weakness
debate,
of
right?
this is, let's just
Like
do
that was
a
the first time
hypothetical.
anyone on that fucking stage talked about
Family members
coronavirus. Now there's
diagnosed
2 of these
with the
twinks
virus.
up on
Terrible
stage,
tragedy,
and they're
massive
finally
anxiety.
remembering what the fuck the
The wife has
coronavirus
the
is.
virus, the husband is a wreck, wants to go to a psychologist, wants to get counseling, doesn't have the money to do that. Maybe their kid breaks a leg, they don't have the money to go to healthcare. So you're saying right now in the middle of a crisis, but you know what? Last year, at
It's
least
just the flu, bro.
30,000 people died in America because they didn't get healthcare when they should, because we don't have universal.
Oh, come
coverage. I
on.
think that's a crisis. 1 out of 5 people in America cannot afford the prescription drugs they need. They suffer. Some die. I consider that
Most
a
of them are
crisis.
my friends.
Bottom line is, we need
My
a
family
simple
reunions
system
involve a Ouija
which
board.
exists in Canada, exists in countries all over the world, and that is, if you are an American, you get the health care you need. End of discussion. We can save huge sums of money doing
Suffer.
that. The trick is,
Suffer
do we
with
have
2
the
F's and an
guts
A.
to take on the healthcare industry, some of which is funding the vice president's campaign? Do we have the courage to take on the executives at the prescription drug industry, some of which,
Thank you,
some of
Senator
whom are
Vice
funding
President Biden.
his campaign?
Jesus Christ.
This is a national crisis. I don't want to get this into a back and forth in terms of our politics here.
Bernie's just getting
I
more and
laid
more
out a
worked
plan,
up.
Building on Obamacare, providing a public option of Medicare that would cover everyone the same way. This idea that this is his only answer is a mistaken notion. But regardless of whether my
you
plan is in
did
place
sign
or
off
his,
on
this
Obamacare.
is
I
a
don't know
crisis.
how
This
much
is like we
legroom
are
you've
being
got on
attacked
healthcare,
from
Joe.
abroad. This is something that is of great consequence. This is
Not
like
that you
a
need
war.
legroom when your
And
legs
in a
barely
war,
fucking
you
work.
do whatever is needed to be done to take care of your
Is
people.
running
And
corn
what you
pop
do is
instead
you-
of
and I
Biden completely
propose
out of the
it,
question
laid
at
it
this
out in
point?
detail.
Because
Everything that
I'm just
you
running it up the
need
flagpole,
in terms
folks.
of dealing with this crisis would be free. It is paid for by the taxpayers generally. Generally. It has nothing to do with Bernie's Medicare for all. And by the way,
Vice President
Let
Biden,
me
thank
just-
you. If I may, the Vice President just
if you want to
mentioned
get them to
war.
both shut up,
Would
you should just
deploy the
sneeze.
US
You
military
clear that
in
stage
effort
in
to contain the
2.5
virus,
seconds.
And if so, how?
Well, I think we use all of the tools that make sense. And if using the National Guard, which is, folks, I think in New York State already
This
using
is
the National
malarkey.
Guard, that is
The malarkey
something that
stops
has to be
here.
done. This is clearly, as the Vice President indicated, a national emergency. And what I worry about is not only
What I
how
worry
we
about is
respond
I'm 110
aggressively
years old.
to the virus,
To me,
but also
oxygen is
how
a virus.
we respond aggressively to the economic fallout of a global recession.
You're talking
right
about
now,
a global
in
recession
Illinois
a
and
day
Ohio, if
after
my
the
memory is
biggest
correct,
market increase in a
the
single day in
governor has said,
history?
they're closing down
The
bars,
fuck?
they're closing down restaurants.
Oh my
What
god!
happens
You
to
could
the
tell
workers
they
who
like
were there?
prepared for this debate like
happens
a
to
week ago.
millions of
You can
workers who
tell
may end up
because
losing
their
their
talking
jobs?
points are already outdated.
So what I think we have got to do
Of course,
right now,
when you're
is
pushing
if Trump can
socialism, a
provide, or the
200-year-old
Fed can provide
ideology
$1.5
in
trillion
2020, I guess you're not too
to-
worried about being
for
outdated.
liquidity for the banks.
Biden's
Well,
just
we've gotta
worried
say
about
to
being
every
carbon
worker in
dated,
America,
actually.
You know what? Don't panic. You'll be able to pay your mortgage.
Senator,
because you're gonna
You
get a
actually have to
check. You're
cut
gonna
him
be
in
made-
half
Senator,
and
we're gonna
count
talk
the
about the
rings. I think
economic-
that's how that
go
works
ahead,
with
Mr.
Joe
Vice
Biden.
the answer is I would call out the military.
Okay.
Now, they have the capacity to provide this surge help that hospitals need and that is needed across the nation. I would make sure that they did exactly
would make
what
sure
they're
that
prepared to
disease
do.
no longer
They've done
exists.
It. They did it in the Ebola crisis. They've done it. They have the capacity to build 500-bed hospitals.
Yeah, Bernie,
and
you
are
know
in
the
tents that are
you know the
completely
thing,
safe and
the
secure,
thing.
and provide the help to get it done to anybody. This overflow. So it is a national emergency.
My country,
I
'tis
would
of thee,
call
sweet
out the
land of
military.
candy,
The Ebola
something.
crisis
You
is
know
one
the
thing.
thing.
This is obviously a pandemic, which is far more severe and impactful to this country. And I think one of the things that we want to remember here is that we got a lot of
Don't talk to
elderly people
Biden
in this
about
country who are
remembering
told,
things.
"Stay home,
Don't.
leave your house."
That was just
Who's
a
gonna
body
get food
blow
to them?
from Bernie.
How do we get food to them?
One of the things we
We've
want to
got
remember here,
schools all over
Biden,
this
is
country now
anything
being
at all.
shut down. Okay. How are we going to make sure that the kids do well? in
Godspeed
this
to all the
crisis, not
clankers
become
in
traumatized?
attendance.
What do we do about the parents now who have to stay home with the kids?
It is
and
do
can't
ho
go
ho. We're
work?
fucking watching
So I
two
think
moldering
what
old
bottom
Muppets.
line here is that in this
It's
crisis,
true.
we have got to start paying attention to the most vulnerable. That includes people who are in prison right now, people who are in homeless shelters right now. What about the
What's with the bug eyes, bro? Bernie,
gonna
what the
respond to
fuck?
them?
You look like you
Now,
saw your
in
own poll numbers.
2008, when we had the Wall Street bailout,
Like he's
they did
even
very well
speaking at like
for the
normal
people on top. They
volume, and
bailed
his
out
eyes are still bugging
the
out.
crooks on Wall Street. They forgot about the suffering of ordinary Americans. This time around,
Stadler
let us
and
learn
Waldorf,
that
thank you.
lesson.
I always
Let us
forget the
pay
name of
attention
those
to
two
the
Muppets.
working
Thank you,
families in this
Senator.
country
We
and to
have,
the most
we
vulnerable.
have learned that lesson. And again, I lay out in detail. What we should be doing now is we should be
Is it
surging
only,
help
hold on,
to
combined
those
age of
places which are
150
the
years?
most
Is it really
vulnerable.
only
We
that?
should
Are
have
you sure?
Every single person
And
that's
one of
in a
these guys
nursing
is
home
pushing 80.
being able to be tested. We should
I
be
think both
moving
these guys are
forces
pushing
in
80.
to do that. We should move in the capability to do that. We should be sitting down. The president.
I don't know about
sitting
you
down in a
guys,
situation
but, you
right
know.
now and do what we did before.
My-
and asking the
my
question,
grandpa was
okay,
pushing 80.
you're
We
gonna
didn't-
close everything. When
we
you
didn't let
close
him do
everything, how
much
you
by
get
himself, let
prescriptions
alone
that have
run
to
a
be
fucking
filled?
country.
How do you make sure when you close that school, those children are going to be able to get the school food program?
Like they're
How do
gonna.
you
These
make
guys
sure
are
that
so
you're gonna be able
old.
to
They're
see
gonna
to
have
it
to
that
rename
you
the
get
vice
your mortgage
president like
paid?
the
I
Minder.
propose that all of that be covered. And
really
it's
more
going
of an
to take
assisted
a
living situation at that point.
multi-billion-dollar program to do that. But first things first. The first thing is take care of the immediate needs we have now relating to surging the kind of a capability we have to prevent this great bump
This the
in
thing.
terms of
The thing. The
how
big
it's gonna cause
bump.
such pain, as well as moving in the direction of making sure we have a long-term plan.
Thank you,
to
Mr.
make
Vice
sure it's
President. We're going to
taken care of.
talk in a moment a lot more about the economic impact. But first, Senator Sanders, I want to ask about China.
China.
When this
Here we
outbreak
go.
First started in China. The government there censored the whistleblower doctor who sounded
Yeah.
the alarm and downplayed the true gravity of the virus.
Right.
And
What
I complimented them
consequences
immediately
should China
after.
face
Yes, what's
for
your point?
its role in this global crisis?
Well, one of the consequences is we have got to learn that you cannot lie to the American people. You cannot be less than frank about
The
the
guy
nature
still won't
of
put
the
a fucking
crisis.
price tag on his goddamn
what
healthcare
bothers
plan.
me
Well, that's
very
not true.
much
He
is you
has
have a president of the
floated
United
a
States today,
tentative
Mr. Trump,
price tag
who was
for
praising
his healthcare
China
plan.
for the good work that they are doing, when in fact, as you indicated, they were lying to their own people and allowing that virus to move much more aggressively.
Well, you also
than
wouldn't
should
let
have
the
been case.
CDC in their own
I don't
fucking
think this is
country.
the time for reclamation.
Of course,
to
I
be
think
punishing
I think
people.
for
Now is
Bernie
the
to be
time, by the
okay
way,
with the
to be
CDC
working
entering the
with
country,
China.
they'd
They
have
are
to
learning a
rename
lot
themselves the
about this
CDCCP,
crisis.
I think.
And in fact, we have got to work with them. We've got to work with the World Health Organization. We've got to work with Italy. We've got to work with countries around the world. If there was ever a moment when the entire world is in this together,
You know, people
gotta
keep wondering
support
why
each
Bernie
other,
won't drop out.
this
I
is
think it's an
that moment.
issue of getting
That's
him
why,
in
let
the
me respond.
helicopter.
That's why I insisted the moment this broke out that we should insist on
that's why
having
you
our
won't drop
experts in China to see what was happening.
Just tell them there's
And they
500
declared to
delegates
China
in
the
there. Don't worry
consequences
about
if
it.
We did not have that access. And we have to lead the world. We should be the ones doing what we did during the Ebola crisis. Bringing
Ebola!
The whole world together.
Do
and
not
saying,
bring
"This
up
is what we
Ebola,
must do."
asshole.
We have to
Do
have a
not bring
common
up
plan.
Ebola. The
All
fucking media was
nations are
carrying
affected the
Obama
same
and
way
Biden's
by
water
this
so
virus,
hard on fucking
depending on
Ebola, it was
exposure.
ridiculous.
And so we need world leadership.
I remember
We
watching
need
a news report one
international
time where they
leadership. We
found
need
a way to
someone who
blame
knows how
George
to
W.
bring
Bush
the
for
world
Ebola.
together and insist
I don't
on
even remember
fundamental change in
how.
the way in which we're approaching this.
Obama had been in office,
Senator
what,
Sanders?
like fucking
Well,
5
the
years by
bottom line
then?
here
I forget.
is that in the midst of this crisis, we have got to act in an unprecedented way. And that means every country on earth is going to be affected. Every country on earth has got to work together. It also means that we tell the pharmaceutical industry,
What is
tell
with
the
him
big
and
money
the
industry
pharmaceutical industry?
this is not
I
a
mean,
time for
who the fuck
profiteering.
is making your heart
This is a time
medications,
for
asshole?
all of us working together. The World Health Organization.
Maybe he's
is a
pissed
very,
'cause he
very
has high
strong
premiums. I don't
organization.
know.
It is sad that we have a president.
taxpayers are
that
paying
has
it, not
ignored
you,
the
Bernie.
international community in so many ways, including in terms of international health crises.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Obviously, another part of
Oh
this
boy,
story
the
is
Univision
the economy,
token.
which is reeling from this pandemic. Many economists are warning of a recession. Just hours ago, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates to near 0%.
Oh, Jesus
which
Christ.
has not happened since the financial crisis in 2008.
Can we get some fucking, can
President
we get
Biden
like real-time
last
translation
week
on this bitch?
What I would do is make it clear to the world and make it clear to the United States that we are going to have a major, major, major bailout package, that we do not reward corporations. We reward individuals who, in fact, are really put to the test.
What?
here. The problem is the policies.
You're already talking about a bailout?
We've eaten a lot of our seed corn here. The ability for us to use levers that were available before.
He's talking,
have been
nobody's
used
even
up by this
asking for a
god-awful
bailout.
tax code of
He's already
$1.9
talking about a
trillion
bailout.
by the fact that we have used the
These
Fed will
these
be a little
motherfuckers never
consequential.
saw
Now,
anything they didn't want to
they've
spend
already-
your money
They've
on.
already used what leverage they have, and so we're going to have to just level with the American people. And here's the deal. We're going to have to not only deal with the immediate
Jesus Christ.
crisis,
You're right.
economic crisis,
Somebody
which
just
is the
said
most
business as
critical
usual.
now,
It's like, yeah,
to let
business
people
as
know
usual
their
circa
mortgages are gonna be paid,
2004.
Their rents are going to be paid. They're going to have child care. They're going to make
Yeah,
sure
I feel
that
like it just
they-
went back in
all their-
time.
All their medical bills are cared for relating to this.
Of course,
And
I know
so
that can't be the
we have
case
to
because
go
Biden
beyond
didn't
that.
get
And we're
marginally
gonna
more
have to be in a
coherent.
situation where we're meeting on a daily basis, like we did in the middle of the financial crisis, to decide how we are going to find the wherewithal and the money to be able to see to it we hold all these folks harmless. But not do what Trump wants to do.
Who better to deal with this crisis than a dude who's pushing gun control during
Senator
a
Sanders.
period of food shortages, government curfews, and mass paranoia? That
The
is
Ebola crisis
that is certainly a take.
exposes the dysfunctionality of our healthcare systems and how
Yes.
poorly prepared we are despite how much money that we spend. And the Ebola crisis is also, I think, exposing the cruelty and the unjustness of our economy today.
What the fuck?
We have more income and wealth inequality in America today than any time in 100 years. And what that means that in the midst of this crisis, you know, if you're a multimillionaire, No one's happy about this crisis. You're going to get through it.
If
You're
you're,
gonna get
you're,
opportunity.
what are
You're
you
not
saying?
worried
You're,
about healthcare.
you're a
You're not worried about
multimillionaire.
income
You
coming in.
are. There are two
Half of
multimillionaires
our
on
people
stage
are
right
living
now.
paycheck to paycheck.
The
We got
fuck?
people who are struggling, working 2 or 3 jobs to put food on the table. What is going to happen to them? So the lesson to be learned is we have got to move aggressively right now to address the economic crisis as a result of
millionaires on stage talking about income equality.
Ebola in my head here right now.
And a haggard old fucking Muppet who just had a heart attack, who has a free Senate healthcare plan talking about healthcare. What the fuck? What fucking white rabbit bunny hole did I fall into? Where am I?
And so many have so little.
People are looking for results, not a revolution. They want to deal with the results they need right now.
I haven't seen Bernie this
And we
pissed
can
since
do
the
that
Berlin
by
Wall
making
fell,
sure that
I
we
think.
make everybody whole who has been so badly hurt. In terms of they lose the job, in terms of not having the ability to care for their children, in terms of the health care costs that they have related to this crisis, we can make them
God, we
whole.
need Tulsi on stage
Now,
right now, for
now,
Christ's
and
sake.
put in process
Just
a
for
system
some
whereby they all
variety.
are made whole. That has nothing
And that's
to do
why
with a
they changed the
legitimate
rules, by the
concern
way, because
about
if you
income
had Tulsi
equality
on
in America.
stage, the
That's
only
real.
marginally coherent
That's real.
person
But that does not affect
under the age
need
of
for us to act
95,
swiftly and
her poll numbers would
very
have spiked,
thoroughly
and they
in
couldn't
concert
let that happen.
With all the forces that we need to bring to bear to deal with the crisis now, so no one's thrown out of their home, no one loses their mortgage, no one is kicked out of their house, no one loses their paycheck.
She
no
would,
one's in a
yeah.
position where
They should have
have
Tulsi here
a
just to be on
significant
standby
financial
with the
disability
defibrillator, I
as
think.
a consequence of this SARS, of this particular crisis.
Thank you, Vice President. Senator Sanders.
Well, I think it goes without
Mr. Reese,
saying.
what's my drink? I'm
that
having a
as
latte
nation,
here.
We have to respond as forcefully
not
as
a soy
we can
latte, I
to the
promise.
current crisis. But it is
There's enough
not
soy
good
on
enough
screen
not to be
for 5
understanding
men right now.
how we got here and where we want to go into the future. So how does it happen?
You like how
that today, in
Biden
the
has to
wealthiest
turn his
country in
whole
the
body
history of
when
the
he needs
world,
to turn to the left?
half of our
He's like
people are
fucking
scared to
Michael
death.
Keaton Batman. It's like
Good. I agree. In fact, that was my idea originally, to make sure that every person in this country is
I'm
made
Bazooka
whole
Joe.
as a result of this crisis. But God willing, this crisis is going to end. And we are going to have to develop an economy in which,
Of course,
half of our
under
people
my government,
are not
God would
living
be outlawed.
paycheck to paycheck and struggling to put food on the
the
table.
only religion is
I
the
don't
state.
disagree with that. You were asking about the crisis. What are we going to do about the crisis now, which is incredibly consequential to millions and millions of Americans? And it's not going to be solved by a change in tax policy now. It's not going to be solved by a change in how we deal with health care. It's got to be
What?
solved with an emergency need right now.
You mean
Right
like
now.
exactly
what
what
do we do?
the
First thing we do
administration's
is we
already
make sure
fucking
that
doing? What the
healthcare
fuck?
is available by us having the tools to be able to deal with it, and that requires us to go out and do much more than this.
I mean, I
president's
thought
done
the
in terms
press
of planning.
conference that just
Secondly,
went
it
off the
requires
air
us to be in a
was it
position
like an
where
hour
we're
ago?
anticipating
I thought
what
they
will
did a
happen
pretty
in the
good
next
job.
month or weeks in
I didn't
terms
think it
of
was
the
too
flow
bad.
into the healthcare system.
And the
by
Trump
bringing the
mic drop
military
moment
along,
calling
more
out
hospital
CNN,
beds,
I think,
more
on the
training,
fake
more
fucking
equipment,
news
more
about
equipment
Google.
to save
That was
the
pretty
first
goddamn
responders as
hilarious.
well.
He
In
literally
addition
dropped
to
the
that, we
paper.
have to also look at what are the immediate needs right
That was
today.
glorious.
How about that person who's been laid off today? How about that person who doesn't have an income today? They have to know that tomorrow, when the paycheck comes due,
They
you
have to
will
know
get
that
paycheck.
tomorrow is
And
that
thirdly,
there's
we have
the
to think
tomorrow the
long-term
thing.
about how we deal with
The
making
ga-
all those who've been badly damaged.
There are
right again.
days, and we
then
live in the
move
days,
on.
and days are
Then
things.
we move on to change
calendars.
the economy in ways that are more profoundly necessary than people think, but do not respond to the immediate needs.
Free
we have
hair
now.
plugs for
First
all.
things first.
Thank you, Vice President. Senator Sanders, you voted against
Saunders.
bailouts following the 2008
I'm
financial
sorry, I
crisis.
can't.
Many believe those spending bills were a crucial part of stabilizing
If he
the
somehow
economy back
became
then.
president,
Would you
being
support
commander-in-chief,
bailouts for
could we
industries
just
that
make
are
him a
being
colonel
crushed
so we
by
could
the
call him Colonel
coronavirus
Sanders?
outbreak
Would that be
now?
okay?
I did.
I'm just saying.
You're quite right. I voted against.
What am I
the
saying? He'll never
bailout
be fucking president.
because I believe
He wants to get in the White House. He'll
that
have to take a fucking
the
tour.
illegal behavior being done by the people on Wall Street should not be rewarded by a bailout.
Again with the
And, by
Wall
way,
Street
those
horse shit.
banks
Like we're in
are
the
more
middle of fucking
prosperous
the Occupy
and own
movement.
more assets, and by and large,
Bro,
than
that
they
was
did back then.
fucking 4 or
They're bigger
5
now
years
than they were
ago.
then.
Move on.
I thought at the time, that in the
MoveOn.org.
midst of massive income and wealth inequality, the people on top through a surtax.
One
on
thing
the
I'm
very
repeatedly
wealthy
struck by
should
is like
bail out. And it's not just the
how
top bailout.
terrified the
We gave
DNC
trillions
media
of dollars
complex
in
are by
zero
Bernie
interest
Sanders.
loans to large banks.
You know,
But to
they
answer your question, where we
called
are
in
right
all
now,
those favors,
to
and they got all the
stabilize the
former
economy.
Democratic frontrunners
But
to
we
drop
can't
out and
repeat
immediately
what we
back
did
Biden,
in
and like it's
2008.
obvious
Joe
the
voted
deck is
for
being
that.
stacked
I
against
voted
Bernie
against it.
Sanders. But I mean, like,
Because
look at this
we have
guy.
gotta do more than save
You
the
guys
banks
are so
or the
scared
oil
shitless
companies.
of this
Our
haggard
job
old
right
fucking
now is to
Hebrew.
tell every
You are
working
skewing
person
the
in this
entire
country,
DNC
no matter what
field and
your
every
income
channel
is,
in the fucking dial against
are
his
not gonna
ass. Like, are you
suffer
shitting
as a
me?
result of
Are we
this
looking at the
crisis
same
of
guy?
which you had no control.
Vice President Biden.
Had those banks all gone
Look
under,
how he
all those
performs in
people
most
Bernie says he cares
contests.
about would be in deep trouble. Deep, deep trouble. All those little folks, we'd have gone out of business. They'd find
a good
themselves in
thing.
a position where they would lose everything that they had in that bank, whether it was $10 or $300 or a savings account.
Oh, for you
This
guys
is about
asking for
saving
the
economy.
volume or
And it
whatever.
did
I think
save the economy. And the banks
I'm
paid
pretty
back,
sure it
and
was
they
the
paid
audio
back
that got
with
me
interest.
last
I
time
agree
when the
with
stream
Bernie.
was taken
Someone should have
down.
gone to jail.
So
That
we'll go
was the
ahead and
big
keep it to a
disagreement
dull
I had
roar tonight.
in terms of bailing out. But the
Of course, I
question
think that was
they
manual.
paid back.
CBS,
In
for
addition
those
to
who
that,
don't know,
and also part of that was
CBS
bailing
hired
out
an
the
outside
automobile
firm
industry,
to
saving
take
thousands
streams
of
down
jobs,
on
tens of
YouTube in
thousands
real
of jobs
time.
over time.
And
He
in a
voted
in
against
no
that
way
as well.
suspicious occurrence, that
I did not
outside
vote
firm
against
then
that.
vanished
That
like a
bailout
fart in
money
the
was
wind.
used later on by Bush
Speaking of
to,
farts, how about
to
we
protect
return to the debate?
automobile industry. But here's the point. One minute. Here's the point here, is that in terms of that bailout, there are ways that you can bail out when you have a handful of people who have.
How are we
incredible
already
wealth,
on bailouts? Trump's not even
who
talking
are
about
profiting
bailouts.
off of the illegal
fuck?
behavior of individuals, in this case on Wall Street. You know what you say to them? You want it, and I did. I said
You know,
this
they
to the
tell on
Secretary of
themselves
Treasury.
if you give them
You
long
want a bailout?
enough.
That's fine. You have your friends pay for it.
Oh,
Point
now
is,
they're hitting each
as
other.
Joe should know. It wasn't just the $700 billion TARP program. The Fed gave trillions and trillions of dollars in zero interest loans.
Oh, there we
In
go.
this country, and central banks all over
Hitting
the world.
them on
That
the
was
Obama era
essentially a grant,
bailouts.
because they then could sell that. They could then bring in
Oh!
interest rates much greater than the zero interest loans that they got.
Somebody get some smelling salts for Grandpa Joe.
Um,
Quick,
the
wave
fact
a
of the
Girl
matter
Scout
is
under his
that
nose.
If in fact the banks had all been gone under,
What? All
we
been
would
gone
be in a
under.
Great Depression. We would have not. How do you get out of that? Now Bernie's saying that I guess he's going to do a wealth tax or something. That the top 1% could pay for everything,
Oh.
and they should pay for everything that occurred. We were talking about tens and hundreds of billions of dollars. That's what this was about. And the fact was,
To
it saved the
Pardon,
economy.
Dade
from
Lee
going
Murphy. To
into a
quote
depression.
Raphael, we got a
After
real
passed
mind on
the
this one.
Recovery Act, which I was the one
True.
who went out and got the 3 votes to get it changed. That
Please, adding
had
both these guys
$900
together, you
billion
wouldn't have half
in
a
it,
half a
and
mind.
was the thing that kept us from going into a Great Depression.
Vice President Biden, I'm going to stay with you. Many of the 11 million undocumented immigrants and now even many legal immigrants in the United States are afraid to seek medical help. How do you ensure
Are they?
feel safe enough?
I
to
mean,
get
they account
treatment
for a
to help
staggering
stop
percentage
the
of
spread
ER
of
visits.
coronavirus?
I don't. It doesn't
Anyone
seem
who
like they're
shows
very
up
bashful about
to be
seeking
tested
medical
for
care, but okay.
coronavirus or gets
Let's just accept that
coronavirus
fictitious
treated
fucking president's
would
there.
be held harmless. Just like I've argued all along. Any woman
I don't know
who
who that
crosses
is.
the border or
I'm
is
gonna
here
call
and
her,
being beaten by
Elena
her husband and
Carnitas.
she's an undocumented. She cannot be deported because she reports. There are certain things you cannot deport an undocumented alien for, an undocumented
What?
person for, and that would be one of them. We want that. It's in the interest of
Helpful
everyone. Those
reminder that
folks who
Biden
are
was on the
xenophobic
stage and
folks
raised
out
his
there,
hand
it's
along with
even in
everyone
their
else
interest that woman
when they
come
were
forward,
asked
that
if they
man
would
come
their
forward,
health plan
because
included
it
free
deals
health care
with
for
keeping
illegal
the
immigrants.
spread
Just
from moving more rapidly. They
throwing
will
that the
not,
fuck out
should
there.
not, under any circumstances, be held accountable
Holy shit.
and be deported for that purpose. Period.
Of course, both
I
these
have
guys are
been
so old. I'm
criticized
pretty sure
because
they
the
still refer to
proposal for
Mexicans
Medicare
as
for
the
All that I
coloreds.
introduced includes making sure that undocumented people are also covered. And right now, we have the absurd situation where
We certainly
undocumented
have an
people who
absurd
try to do the
situation,
right thing,
Bernie.
they're sick. They want to go to the doctor. They don't want to
We
spread this
certainly
disease,
do.
are now standing and thinking about whether ICE is going to deport them. So one of
Get
the
any
things that
more
we have
old
to do
people on
is
this
to make sure
stage,
that
a
everybody feels
bingo
comfortable
game will break out.
getting the health care that they need. That should be a general principle above and beyond the coronavirus.
It was fucking hilarious,
Second
though.
of
They were
all, we've
saying
gotta
before the
end
stream
these
started
terrible
that
ice raids,
they
which
had
are terrorizing
consulted with a
communities all over
medical
this country.
professional
And thirdly, to
in
answer your
deciding
question,
where the
time
podium
is
should.
long overdue for this country to move to comprehensive immigration reform and a path
They're
toward
talking about.
citizenship
I mean, they
for those
opened up the
11
debate,
million
guys. I don't know if you caught it. They opened up the
And
debate
furthermore,
talking about
on day one as president, I will
how we need to
restore the
calm
legal
things
status
down
of
and
the
people
1.8
are
Senator,
looking
thank
for
you. We're gonna talk
stability
about
and shit.
immigration in a minute, but first
And
I
yet,
wanna
we
ask
this
about
debate was supposed to
something
happen
that's
here
going
in
on right now.
Arizona.
Again,
They
back to
canceled it and
this
held it in
crisis. We know
D.C.
that
because these guys
people
are so
over the
fucking
age of
old.
60
They're at high risk
and
of
those
catching
with underlying
coronavirus.
conditions,
And they're
especially heart
spacing out the
disease, lung
podiums
disease,
like a
and
country
diabetes, are the
apart
most
because
vulnerable to
they're afraid they'll both
coronavirus.
crumble
They're
into
being asked
fucking
to change
dust.
their behavior to protect themselves. So, Senator Sanders, I'll start with you. You're 78 years old. You had a heart attack. What are you doing to protect yourself?
Well, a great deal. Last night
The cat
we
can
had
have a little salami.
a fireside chat.
I think
not
Bernie's got a
rally.
little
I love
salami.
doing rallies, and we bring many thousands of people out to our rallies. I enjoy it very much. We're not doing that right now. In fact, our entire staff is working
Right?
from home. So on a personal level, what we're doing is, I'm not shaking hands. Joe and I did not shake hands.
Yes,
And
call
I am
attention to
very
the fact that
careful
you're old
about
as
the
fuck.
People I am interacting with. I'm using a lot of soap and
Hey, Bernie, if you
hand
really want to stump
sanitizers
Biden, just ask
make
him to
sure
turn
that,
to his
I
immediate
do
left.
not get the infection. And I have to say, thank God right now I do not have any symptoms, and I feel very grateful for that.
Vice President Biden, you're 77. What are you doing to protect yourself?
Well, fortunately, I don't have any of the underlying conditions you talk about that I have to worry about.
Yeah,
Number
sure.
one. Number two, thank God.
That's true.
for the time being,
It's
anything
true,
that
though.
happens,
Your
I'm gonna
underlying
say, knock on
condition
wood,
has nothing
that I'm in
whatsoever
good
to
health.
do with your
Number
immune
three,
system.
I'm taking all the precautions anyone would
Nothing
take, whether they're
whatsoever.
30 years old or 60
Do
years
not.
old
I would
or
avoid
80.
talking about your health,
And that
fellas.
is, I want to make sure that I do not shake hands any longer. I do not engage. We did the same thing. Our staff is all working from home. We are not doing rallies any longer. We're doing virtual rallies. We're doing
Virtual
town
rallies?
hall
Oh, boy.
meetings. We're in a situation
If the
where now
live stream
I
numbers
do
on
not,
Bernie's
as I said,
rallies are
when
any
we encounter
indication,
people,
that
we're
should
not going
go
into
over
crowds.
like a fart in
And
church.
so I'm taking all the precautions everyone else should be taking. I
Or like
wash
a
my
fart on a
hands God
stream,
knows how
really.
many times a day with hot water and soap. I carry with me, as a matter of fact, I have in my bag outside.
It
here,
has fallen
a
to
hand
this, folks. We're
sanitizer. I
talking
don't know
about
how many
washing your
times a day I
hands
use that.
on a debate
I make sure I don't
stage.
touch my face, and so on. So I'm taking all the precautions we're told everybody else.
This is what happens when you begin
Let's
to
turn to the race
politically
more broadly
exploit.
now. Throughout this
you know,
campaign,
a
you've each
health
laid out
emergency.
starkly different visions for how to bring about change. Vice President Biden, Senator Sanders is calling for a
Hold
political
on.
revolution.
Was that
He said
not
people want results, not
encapsulatory
a
of the
revolution.
entire Democratic strategy right now? We're curious how you would bring about political change. Vice President Biden. Guy who's already been the vice president. How can we possibly change things? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I
He
could
still
be in
hasn't told
office
you how
for
he's gonna
8
have to get
fucking
it
years,
He hasn't
in the
told you
second
how,
most
in fact,
powerful
there's any
office in the
possibility
land.
that
Maybe.
happens. He hadn't told you how much it's going to cost.
Maybe we could
He
give
hadn't
that
told you
one
how
the
it's gonna
community
apply. It
college
doesn't kick
try.
in for 4 years,
Holy
even after it
shit.
passes. We want a
Fucking no
revolution. Let's act
irony.
now. Pass the Biden
CNN.
healthcare plan, which takes Obamacare, restores all the cuts made to it, subsidizes further, provides for lower drug prices, make sure that there's no hidden bills, make sure that we invest, what I want to invest $50 billion.
Make sure
in
that
dealing
corn
with
pop
underlying
stays out of
diseases that are
America's
great consequence,
pools.
Diabetes,
Make
Alzheimer's,
sure
and
blonde,
cancer.
hairy
Make
legs
sure that
turn
we have a
turn
Medicare
colors
option
in the
that's
sun.
in a public option providing Medicare for us. We can do that now. I can get that passed. I can get that done if I'm president of the United States of America. That will be a fundamental change, and it happens now. I can tell you from experience, being a significant consumer of health care.
I will appoint Hammurabi, the head of the Supreme Court.
What people want is hope, and they need it now, not 4 years from now. And Bernie
Not
still
4
hasn't
years
lost
from
control
now,
of
we'll
how he's
both
gonna
be
pay for it.
dead.
We're talking about
Not
a
quite
$30+
true.
trillion plan.
Not quite true.
Senator
All
Sanders.
right, look, let's do something that is very rarely done in the Congress. Let's do something that the media doesn't do. Let's talk about the reality of American life. Why is it that over the last 45 years, despite the huge increase in productivity and
Why
technology,
is it I
the
can
average
have
worker
4
pays up
houses
and
but
make
no
more
comb?
in real dollars?
Why is this?
Why is it that over the last 30 years, the richest
We need
1%
comb equality
have
for
seen
all.
a $21 trillion increase in their wealth, bottom half of America, $900 billion decline in their wealth? Why is it that we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right? Why are we the only major country not to have
Why do
any
you believe in
net
every
family
human
relief?
right except
Why
for
do
the
we
one
give tax
enshrined in
breaks
the
to
Second
billionaires
Amendment?
When 500,000 people are homeless today? And it comes down to something, Jake, we don't talk about. The power structure in America.
The
Who
record
has the
player's
power?
turned
And
on.
I'll tell you who has the power. It's the people who contribute money,
No,
the billionaires
that's the
who
live stream.
contribute
I
money
paused that.
to political campaigns, who control the legislative agenda. Those people have the
Thank you.
power.
Oh,
And if
hi.
you want to make
I
real
didn't know if I
changes
was
in this
on
country,
or not.
if you want to create an
Say
economy
hello
that
to
works
Miss Eve.
for all, not
Hello.
just a few. If you want to guarantee quality
the
health
chat.
care to all, not make
said hello
$100
to
billion in
myself.
profit for the
Hello.
healthcare industry. You know
Hello.
what you need? You
Get a
need
chair?
to take
No, I'm
on
not gonna be
Wall
on.
Street.
Oh, okay.
You need to take on the drug companies
Women
and
should
the
be seen
insurance
and not
companies
heard.
and the
Yes.
fossil fuel industry. You don't take campaign
Apparently, CNN
contributions
agree because
from
they
them.
shut Tulsi
You
out of the
take
debate.
them
Yep.
on and create an economy that works for all.
You want to do that? Do what I proposed over 30 years ago. Federally fund all elections.
Federally
No
fund
private
all
contributions
elections.
in the election process. If you want to do
Whoo!
that, join me.
Maybe it can run
Join
as
me in
well
my
as the
constitutional
DMV.
amendment that I've been proposing. Maybe you and I can work
Look
on
at-
that
look what a
together,
goat fucker
because that would
elections are
fundamentally
now.
change it. And the implication
Can you
is
imagine
I'm
if they
getting these-
ran
I'm
as
not
well as the
accepting
fucking Postal
contributions from anybody
Service?
Over
Fuck.
$2,800, number one. My average contribution is $44. Just
Holy
this month,
hell.
I raised $33 million. Average
Oh,
contribution
oh,
is $51.
There's a doggo.
The idea that this
There
is
you go, big
Bernie's
guy.
implication is
There's
somehow
Cicero.
being funded by millionaires. Bernie, look, in the last Super Tuesday and before that, Bernie outspent me 2,
He's
3,
like,
4,
please
5,
put me
6 to
down.
1.
I'm very
And I still
uncomfortable.
won.
He is.
I didn't
He's
have any
too
money.
big. I
And I
could pick
still
him
won.
up, but it's uncomfortable.
Senator
for him.
Sanders?
He's a big bashful boy.
It's good
He
that
is.
you had an idea 30 years ago. I don't want to join you. Why don't you join me? Why don't you get rid of the super PAC that you have right now? Which is
Why don't you
running very
get rid of the
ugly
super
negative
PAC
things
and
about
replace it with all the dark
Oh,
money
yeah,
that
no,
I've
that's
taken?
just
I
the
mean,
truth.
what?
And I got
What?
two other super PACs running ads against us. Why don't you,
You
just
can
say
just
right now,
hide your
go on
corporate
television
donors
and say,
like a
hey,
real
you
man.
know
I
what?
mean,
I think in
shit.
the past, Joe, if I'm not mistaken, you condemned super PACs. Is that correct?
You get rid of the 9 super PACs you have?
I don't have 9 super. I don't have any super
get rid of your teeth right
yeah,
now.
you go ahead, Mr.
Come on, give me.
No, I won't give you a break on this one, Joe. You condemned super PACs. You got a super PAC is running negative. But here's the point. This is the point. In the richest country in the history of the world, half of our people should not be struggling to put food on the table. And the reason for that is you have a political structure in which big money interests not only dominate the political system, but dominate our
Speaking of
economy
big
as well.
money
Somebody
interests,
makes
can
the
we talk
decision,
about my
we're gonna
fourth
shut down
house?
a factory in America. We're going to move to China. We're going to move to Mexico. Pay people starvation.
We're gonna
wages
move to
there.
China and Mexico,
This
but that's
is an
just
issue
my
that
timeshare
has
plan,
got to be
actually.
ultimately deal with. Who has the power?
That's
in
where I'm
America?
gonna build my
Are we
5th and
content with
6th
so
lake
few
house.
exercising so much power when so many people have given up on the political process.
I proposed a significant change in the tax code, and I've been proposing it for a long, long time.
I
Number one.
propose we
Number
bathe in
two,
the blood of
it's
the
not
young.
just about taxing the super wealthy. It's about making sure everybody pays their fair share. For example, I can pay for my whole health care plan by changing the
Why
way in
does
which
Joe
we deal with
Biden always
capital
look
gains.
like he's
People should
perpetually
pay their
witnessing
capital
a
gains
solar
based on what their income
eclipse?
tax is, and not at 20%. That would raise $800 billion, pay for my entire medical health care plan, which would cover everyone. The fact of the matter is, everything I call for, I pay for. And I do not believe, and I have not supported these exorbitant tax cuts for the wealthy. I strongly opposed the tax cut that this president has put through of $1.9 trillion. And I said at the time, this was all about trying to eliminate the safety net. Look, the idea that Bernie implies, the way he says things, speaking of negative ads, my Lord, Bernie, you're running ads saying I'm opposed to Social Security, that PolitiFact says is a flat lie, and that the Washington
Shit.
Post said is a
If
flat
Biden was
lie.
against Social Security,
Let me
I'd
ask you a
vote for him.
question, Joe.
Fuck.
Yeah.
You're right here.
I'd vote for him over Trump.
Have you been on the
Even
floor
Trump
of the
believes
Senate?
in fucking
You've
Social
been in the
Security.
Senate for a few
Let's
years
get rid of
now.
that shit.
Time and time again, talking about the necessity, with pride, about cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, cutting
Stop!
veteran programs.
No.
You never said that.
Stop! I'm turgid.
All right. America, go to the website right now. Go to the YouTube right
Go
now.
to the YouTube!
Time after time, you were not fan of Bo Simpson?
Bernie just said
I
go
was
to
not
the
a fan of
YouTube.
Bo.
This is the guy like 15-year-olds want to vote for. This is the guy. He says the YouTube.
Look, here's the
You're an
deal.
honest guy. Why don't you just tell the truth here? We all make mistakes.
Go to the information
You
superhighway.
said that I, in fact, why am I rated?
I hear it's a
96%
series
by
of
the Social
tubes.
Security
I
Organization?
used to
Why
communicate
am I
by
viewed
carrier
as a
pigeon,
strong-
but
All that I said.
I have laid out how I will increase Social
holy
Security.
hell.
I laid that out.
I have laid out how I'm going to make
Okay, let
sure
me-
that it is in fact paid for.
Jake.
Go to joebiden.com. Look at my exchange with Paul Ryan on his desire to try to privatize and
the bitch who sang OK Boomer is voting for this man, and he just
No,
uttered
all
the phrase the
Joe, let me
YouTube.
repeat it again.
I don't
want
even.
you just be straight with the American people. I am saying that you have been
It's like
on
when
the
you were
floor
a
of the
teen
Senate
and your parents said
time
the warp
and
tour.
time again
The war.
talking about the need to cut Social Security,
Yeah, sure, I'll give you a
Medicare,
ride to the
and
warp
veterans
tour.
programs. Is that true?
What
or
time
is
is
that
it?
No,
not
it's
true?
You want to
not
go to the
true.
hot
That is
topic?
not true?
That is not true. What is true is, in terms of the negotiations that are taking place, how to deal with the deficit, everything was on the table. I did not support
Everything was
any
on the
of those
table,
cuts.
including
In
most of
Social
my teeth.
Security or in veterans
Whoa,
benefits.
whoa.
Look how
Everything was
wounded
on the
Biden
table.
looks.
All right, you're right. You just said it.
Look at him.
Including, in your judgment, cuts to Social Security and veterans.
Holy
In
shit.
order to get the kinds of
I
changes
haven't seen a
we need
Bolshevik
on
fight
other
this hard
things
since
relate-
that Chinese
Joe,
guy
but
stood in
But
front
we
of the
did
tank.
not cut it.
I
did
know,
not
because
vote for
people
it.
like me helped stop that. But Joe, you just
People like me
you
helped
just
fight that.
contradicted
Like the
yourself.
brave fighters
One
in
minute
Nicaragua.
excuse me,
I
one
mean,
minute you said I was not on the floor. The next minute you say, well, yes, there was a reason why I was worried about the deficit. Maybe that's good reason, maybe it's not. All that I am saying is you were prepared to cut and advocated for the cuts of programs.
Let's just
So let me-
say, I did not.
I did
never
not hit
voted
her.
to
I
cut
did
Social
I'm
not.
not voted, Joe. That's not what I said.
voted. Well, look, I voted to protect it. I was the, just go look at the
Come on,
debate
Joe.
with
Fire a
Ryan
Joe Pedo.
for the vice presidency. Look at what I did. And Bernie,
Joe
will
is
you
a pedo.
acknowledge your campaign took out of context that whole exchange between Paul Ryan? Are you saying PolitiFact is wrong? Are you saying?
Yeah, well,
Well,
believe me,
no.
the Washington Post PolitiFact is wrong
Well,
a whole lot
yes,
of
but-
times.
Whoa!
on
We
that
got a
for-
Democratic
hold on a
candidate to
second.
admit PolitiFact
Bernie,
is a
Joe,
bunch
you
of
just
horse
Joe
shit.
Did Joe, wait a minute. I'll answer your question. You answer mine.
I answered
Finally.
No, you didn't.
All right.
One more time.
I don't
Were
think
you
even
on the
Trump
floor
has come out
on
and
the
said that
subject for
PolitiFact
whatever
isn't
reason,
full of fucking shit.
talking about the need to cut Social Security and Medicare and veterans programs.
No, I did not talk about the need to cut.
All that I would say,
No, I
go to
did
YouTube.
not.
It's all over the place.
This is the
Joe said it
lamest
many,
grumpy
many
old
times. I'm
men
surprised.
sequel I've
You know, you
ever
can defend
seen.
that, or change
Where's
your mind
Walter
on it, but you
Matthau?
can't
What the
deny
fuck?
The reality.
So, Senator,
Might
because
as well
you
be
brought up
sitting there
Social
with their
Security
arms
and you've been
crossed going,
talking about it, I want to ask you about something that you wrote in 1996. You were a member of the House, and you wrote an op-ed that said, quote, "It is clear we will have to make incremental adjustments in Social Security taxes and benefits."
Yeah.
Why are
Malarkey.
your past comments
We
any
will-
less relevant than
Incremental
things you
Incremental
adjustments.
adjustments. That's
Adjustments
good
that
for
I
raise your
advocated
fucking
and have advocated
taxes.
for years is, among other things, increasing
Boomer
the cost
combat.
of living assistance. No, you're not going to find me ever calling for cuts
You
to Social
know,
Security.
if
Right now,
China
for
did
example,
engineer the virus to
we
kill the baby
determine
boomers,
COLAs by
that
looking
really a
at
bad
inflation
thing?
for the general population.
Watching
rather than
this
segregating
stream,
the higher cost that seniors are paying for prescription drugs and for health care. That's
I'm
what
just
I was
saying I
talking
might
about.
learn Chinese.
I
I'm
have, in
just,
fact,
you know, I'm
when
just
Joe and
throwing it
others
out there.
Were enamored with the so-called bold citizen effort, which included
Oh,
cuts
CNN is shilling
to
so
Social
hard. You're
Security,
absolutely
raising
right.
the
If you
retirement
didn't
age.
watch the
I formed,
pre-show, I
along
mean,
with people like
they basically
Barbara
laid
Boxer,
out their talking
the
points for
Defending
them.
Social
Holy
Security
shit.
caucus to say no. When 20% of our seniors are trying to get by,
It was
on
an absolute circle jerk. It was like
$13,000 a year or
four
more,
guys
we
all
are not
agreeing
gonna
how
cut
bad Trump
Social
is.
Security.
Vice President Biden.
And people wonder why no one
Yesterday,
watches.
You endorsed an Elizabeth Warren plan that would undo key parts of the bankruptcy law you helped pass in 2005. A few hours ago, you announced support for making public college tuition free for families
Ugh.
who make less than $125,000 a year.
What?
Something Senator Sanders has supported. What changed?
Two things. Number one,
What
let's talk
changed?
about the
Your accent, for one.
bankruptcy bill was passing overwhelmingly, and I improved it. I had a choice.
Thank you,
It was gonna
Lupe.
pass. It
By the way, the
Republican
lemon
president,
pledge is in
Republican
the
Congress,
closet.
And I offered 2 amendments to make sure that people under $50,000 would not be affected, and women and children would go to the front of the line
my
on
legs have
alimony
blonde
and
hair.
support them. That's what I did. It passed overwhelmingly. I did not like the rest of the bill, but I improved it, number one. Number two, I've talked with Senator Warren about her proposal. This is the first opportunity we've had to make substantial
I
change.
will pass
in
the
what we couldn't get
Biden-Obama
done
Act.
in a Republican
there's
administration.
rich kids
That's
and
why
then
we
black
talked
kids.
last 2
Look,
nights ago.
oh,
and
God, I forgot about that
supported
one.
her proposal, and it's a good proposal. It's a solid proposal, and she should get credit for having introduced it.
Don't do
With
that.
regard to what we're talking about in terms of
I pulled the
college
Biden on
education,
you.
I've
She's
been
doing
saying
Biden
for a long
huffing.
time
Yep.
that we're in a position where 12 years of education is not enough. Is
What?
not
12
enough
years
for the 21st
What?
century. We need 16 years of
What?
education. The exact bill
No.
that
No.
Senator Sanders introduced.
Oh my
Motherfucker,
God.
people are
Little
getting
over a
out
year
of
ago.
college and going and working
Cracking
at
it off
Burger
for
King. What the fuck with a
$125,000 in
degree?
income, you could get free up to that point.
What in
After
the
that, you'd have
fuck?
to pay for your
If the
college
Democratic
education.
Party are
It only
seriously
worked for
hitching their
public schools,
wagon
and it would work for public
to
universities in your
universities
state.
at a time when
I support that
a
idea.
university
It was a
degree
good
could
idea,
not be
and I
worth
support it.
less. I
And
mean,
so
talk
that's
about
what it is.
striking
And
while the
I'm not
iron
saying
is
everything
frozen.
Bernie said has been wrong. He happens to be right on that one.
Senator Sanders, I assume you welcome these changes.
Look, this is a little bit about leadership as well. Joe talked about
It's a
bankruptcy.
little
Joe,
bit
I'm
about
gonna
leadership
instruct you
in
help
the
write
sense that
thing.
you're both running
I
to be
did
leader of
not,
the free
all right?
world.
I
And that
did not.
bankruptcy bill.
Well,
by the way,
let's
when
be
we
real.
talk about
Neither of these
education,
old
we got 45
fucking
million
skeletons
people
are
in
running
America
anywhere.
Struggling with student debt. Some of them
Unless
really
one of the
struggling with
moderators
student debt.
coughs.
And that bankruptcy bill made it impossible, very difficult for people to escape from that student debt. It was a very, very bad bill. You said, Joe, that a majority of the people in the Senate voted for it. You're right.
Overwhelming majority.
CNN
Overwhelmingly.
seem
Well,
a
I
little
voted
bit in
against
the
it
tank for Bernie
in
here.
the House,
A little
and
bit.
I was right. And I don't have to rethink my position because that's what leadership is about, having the guts to take an unpopular vote. But it's not just bankruptcy. The difference between Joe
Having
and
the guts to
on,
take an unpopular vote,
higher
like
education
outlawing the
is 4 years
Mensheviks.
ago. It was not a popular idea, Joe. I'm glad you're coming
Banishing
around now.
Trotsky to
4
Mexico.
years ago when I said that public colleges and universities should be tuition free, people were saying, Bernie, that's a radical idea. Well, you got states and cities and counties all over the country that are moving in that direction.
That's not a
And I'm
point in its
glad that
favor,
Joe is on
asshole.
board, But what leadership is about
How does
is
that prove
going
that's a
forward
good thing
when
that
it's
we
not
should do?
popular.
Yeah, like
When it's an
Everyone
idea
when
else
that you
is
get
doing it.
when more
criticized
states
for.
and counties
So
are
I'm
moving
proud
to be
of
Second
that
Amendment
fact, and I'm
sanctuaries, you
proud
say
of
that's a
our
fucking
leadership on
bad
many
thing.
issues. Joe, since the campaign has come around, I talked about raising that minimum wage $15 an hour 4 years ago, Joe.
So did I, and I went out and
15
campaigned.
Ah!
The governor.
I will talk to the guy.
Oh
I'm
my
aware.
All right?
God.
You should be aware.
This
All
is
right,
the
4 years
Democratic
ago, it was a
Party,
radical idea.
guys.
Very few people in Congress
Two
were
old
talking
men
about it.
arguing
Vice
about what
President.
show to watch on
Let's get
TV.
something straight about
So
the
good.
bankruptcy bill. The bankruptcy bill already, it did not affect student debt for 90% because the law had already
I
been
want
passed.
the Andy
You
Griffith
could
show
not
on.
declare
No, I want
bankruptcy
Matlock.
for those loans that were
I want
from
MASH.
private institutions. You couldn't do it. And so the bankruptcy bill didn't affect that. It affected 10% of the people, the first bankruptcy bill. 10% of the student loans, number one. Number two,
Matlock is
now we're in
on.
a position where we're able to collect
Please,
that
can
property.
Matlock
The
be on?
fact is,
Can
if
we
had
replace
stepped
Bernie
up
Sanders with Don
and
Knotts,
changed
please?
the law as it relates to people making less than $50,000, those who for alimony.
It's a
and
shame
child
Buttigieg
support,
dropped
then
out.
guess
We
what?
coulda jumped
They
on
would've
over
been
to
in the
Howdy
bucket
Doody.
too. It was going to pass anyway. I made it. Let me finish. I made it incrementally better.
them
I
fight.
did not like the bill.
Let me
did
I
not
think we need a
support the
Girl
bill,
Scout
and I
out
made
here
it
for
clear
Joe
to the
Biden
industry
to
I
finish.
didn't like the bill.
Oh.
Number two, this bill now calls for the opportunity to fundamentally change the mistakes we couldn't correct in the bill the first time around.
You were in
And that is
office
why I
8
support
years.
Elizabeth Warren's idea, and it's a very good idea.
Senator Sanders, go ahead.
Well, this is kind of circular logic. We're going
To say the logic is circular implies there was logic to begin
Well,
with.
if you hadn't voted for it, and if you had rallied other people, as I try to do in the House voting against it, we might not have the problems with it we have today. You know what leadership is about, Joe, and it deals with, whether your opposition or your support, I should say, for legislation regarding gay communities and the so-called Defense of
What?
Marriage Act. You remember that bill, right? You remember the Defense of Marriage Act. It was, gay marriage.
You're gonna suddenly
today
talk
is
about
considered
where?
a little
How
bit
did you
different than it was
transition from
25 years
free college
I
to gay
remember that.
marriage?
It
What the
was a very
fuck?
hard vote. I voted against the Defense of Marriage Act. You voted for it. I voted against the bankruptcy bill. You voted
Pivot
for it.
like
I
a
voted against
ballerina,
the
like,
war in
seriously.
Iraq, which was also
He's
a tough
saying
vote.
he was
You
against
voted
gay
for it.
marriage?
I voted
Yeah.
against disastrous trade agreements,
Which
like
I think
NAFTA
is a
and
pretty
the
weak
NGO with
argument when
China,
gay marriage was
which cost
basically
this country over
legalized under
4 million
Obama,
good-paying
b-
jobs.
although it was
You
thanks to
voted
the Supreme
for
Court
it. I voted
in an
against the Hyde
unconstitutional
Amendment,
decision.
which denies low-income women the right to get an abortion. You have
However you
consistently
feel
voted for it. I
about
don't
gay
know what your
marriage, it
position
was
is
not
on it today, but
done
you have consistently voted
constitutionally.
for it. In other words, all that I'm
Again,
saying
that's something
we
that
can
has to
argue
be
about
passed
the
through
merits of the
Congress.
bill.
Vice President Biden.
It takes
they went
courage
through the Supreme
sometimes
Court as
to
fucking
do the
usual.
right thing.
We can argue about the past, the future. This man voted against the Brady bill 5 times. Background checks.
He voted
Background checks
against
5
this.
times.
He voted against
Number one.
that.
Number two, this man is the only one of the few Democrats.
See,
I
it's going to
know
be hard to
who
nail
voted
Biden on much of
exempt the
anything because he
gun
really
industry
didn't do a
from being
whole
able
lot
to be
in
sued.
Congress in
Talk about
fucking
a
40
special,
years.
Special interest. We can sue. We should be able to sue drug companies. We should be able to sue tobacco companies. We cannot sue the gun manufacturers because he voted.
Oh,
for that
boy.
Years ago, he says it was a mistake. Now I'm prepared to accept he says it's a mistake.
Well,
the
you
question is,
Again,
what do we do from this
pushing
point
gun
on? And by
control in the
way,
middle of
might
a
add,
national
I'm the first
crisis with
person to
peak
go on
paranoia
national
and
television
food
in any
shortages.
administration and say I support
That is certainly
gay
a strategy,
marriage.
Biden.
I
Let's
supported
see how that
gay
works
marriage
out for you,
when
bud.
and I so and it
Taking
started
guns
a
away
ripple
from
effect.
people in the
I'm not
middle of a
taking all
fucking
credit for it,
crisis.
but I'm the first
call.
major player to say I support gay marriage on national television.
All that I'm saying here is,
You're not
Leadership.
as
We can
progressive as I
argue-
am.
Yep.
this.
Which
or
is,
that
look,
bill.
Biden is
But
not
what I'm
a
suggesting
moderate
is that
in a lot of
this
ways.
time of crisis,
I've
when
said a
we're
million
living in a
times if
really,
Biden
really
wound up being the nominee, he
unsettling
would be
world.
far and away the most
Economically,
anti-gun
healthcare
nominee the
perspective of
Democratic
the
Party has
coronavirus.
ever offered up, which is really
the people
saying
of
something.
America know my
He's
record.
not a moderate on a lot of
For 30
issues.
years, I have stood with the working families of this
Not
country.
at all.
I have taken on every
Thank you,
special
Mr.
interest there
Naughty,
is out there, and
Mr.
that
Naughty
is what I
Priest.
will do
Yikes!
in the
You
White
sound like
House. That's a
someone
very
Biden
different
would hang
record
out
than
with.
Joe's.
That is
That
not
name.
a different record than mine.
That is a totally different record than yours. All
That's a
right?
totally different
I
record.
mean, and it's a
I
manifestation
listen
of
to
his
mine on a
campaign when
Victrola.
you're, getting all this
Yes,
money
gun
from,
rights are women's
wealthy
rights.
people and billionaires.
true.
So I think if you want somebody who will take to the White House what I've done for my whole life,
Thank you, Senator Sanders.
and just take on special interest, I think I'm
Thank you,
gonna-
Senator.
Shut the fuck up, Senator.
Shut up,
Let's
Grandpa.
talk, let's talk
Holy
about the future
fucking
Vice
shit.
President Biden. If you become the Democratic presidential nominee, how will you appeal to supporters of Senator Sanders when you do disagree on so
The
many
answer
issues?
is you
Making
won't.
it hard for me right now.
If
I was
I'm
trying to
sorry,
give him
if
credit
the
for some
Bernie
things,
Sanders
and I'm not
voters
taking
get
credit for
burned
things.
again, I see them
Look,
disengaging
I
from the
think
electoral
that- I
process.
wanna make it clear.
Honestly,
If Bernie's a
there's some
nominee,
people who are predicting
I
they'll
will not
support
only
Trump.
support
I
him,
mean,
I will
some might out of
campaign for
spite,
him.
but I think more than
And I
likely
believe
they'll
the
just
people who
withdraw
support
from
me
the
will do the
process
same thing.
entirely.
Because the
I
existential
mean,
threat
twice
to the
burned
United
on
States
that,
of
they'd
America
probably just say fuck
is
politics
Donald
entirely.
Trump.
And I don't blame
It's
them.
critical.
I do
would
not
hope
blame
that
him.
Bernie would do the same thing if I'm the nominee and encourage all of his followers to, in fact, support me as well. Because it's much bigger than either of us. Character of the nation is on the ballot.
Promise.
It goes well beyond whether or not. Senator Sanders and I both agree we need health care should be a right, not a privilege. We both agree. We
This
have
is
to
the
deal with
weirdest
student
episode
debt.
of The
We both
Muppet
agree
Show I've
we
ever
have to
watched.
deal with education and access to education.
Oh,
we both
oh,
agree that
oh,
we have a new Green Deal to deal with the existential threat that faces humanity. We disagree on the detail of how we do it, but we don't disagree on the principle.
We don't disagree on the
Fundamentally
fundamental
disagree with this
fact that we're
president
both
on everything. This is a man
old.
who wants to cut Social Security, cut Medicare, not Bernie, the President of the United States. So this is much bigger than whether or not I'm the nominee or Bernie's the nominee. We must defeat Donald Trump.
Good luck with all that,
4
asshole.
more years of Donald
You
Trump
keep your
will
gray liver-spotted
fundamentally
hands off
change
my
the nature
fucking
of
president.
Who we are as a nation.
Yes.
We've got to restore this country's soul. That's essential. And as long as this president is there, we're not going to be able to do that.
Senator Sanders, if
Can I just
Shadow
say a
knows
word on
that's what my
this
favorite
one?
Well, it's
Batman
just a
film
quick
is.
question.
Batman
If
Returns.
he is the nominee, Vice President Biden, you've
Batman
already said
was
you would
best when he
support him.
couldn't turn his
But
neck.
will you campaign for
Sure.
him? Will you urge your
Look,
supporters to
on
support
day
him?
one, when I announced my candidacy, what I said is this country cannot deal with a president who is a pathological liar, who's running a corrupt administration, who obviously
But enough
doesn't
about
know
Obama.
the Constitution of the United States, who believes is above the law, who is a racist and a sexist.
Oh
and a
my
homophobe.
God!
Racist,
He is
You
the
think
most dangerous
piling
president
on the
in this country.
racist,
What I said
sexist
on day one.
pejoratives is going to get
Day
you
one.
in the fucking White
But
House,
obviously,
asshole?
I hope
Like,
to win the nomination.
it didn't work
But
for
if I don't win
Hillary.
the nomination, and I
How the
think every
fuck
other
is it gonna work for
Democratic
you,
candidate is
asshole?
prepared to come together to do everything humanly possible.
You can
to
see
defeat
why
Donald Trump.
Alexandria
But let me
Ocasio-Chavez is
respond
big
to
on this
something
asshole.
that Joe said. You know, we talk about the Green New Deal and all of these things in general terms, but details make a difference. What I have said throughout this campaign, and I don't think I've heard you say this, Joe, is that if we are going
Maybe your
to
hearing
if
aid
we're
wasn't
gonna
turned
save
on.
this planet for our kids and future generations, we need to have the courage to take on the greed of the fossil fuel industry and make
need
it
to
clear
take
to them
on the greed.
that their short-term
Is there an
profits
industry whose
are not
greed
more
he doesn't
important
want to
than the
take
future
on?
of this planet. And we have a
While
very
taking on the
detailed
money
plan,
of those
a
industries,
detailed
incidentally.
proposal. Happy to get the endorsement of the Sunrise
All
movement, the young
businesses
people.
are evil.
We're going to get into
And
the
how are
Green
you,
New Deal.
by
They're gonna talk
increasing
about climate change.
regulations
We
on
have to
those
squeeze in a
businesses,
quick
you're going
break.
to
When we come back,
incentivize them
CNN
hiring
News'
lobbyists,
Democratic
which in
presidential
turn
debate will
incentivizes them
return. Stay with
funding
us.
the government, which in turn gets back to you. So how does that decrease the fucking corruption? That makes no fucking sense. All right, let's see here. Holy shit, you guys are crazy. You guys, a lot of questions here.
How far are you?
Mercenary X, I'm starting a betting pool here. I've got 50 that says Bernie Sanders' heart will explode in his chest a la Alien. And another 75 Sleepy Joe will somehow wander off stage and impale himself on sound equipment. 100 if they start a cripple fight. You know what? They kind of did. They kind of did. I think you're owed 100, my friend. Jesse Henderson, the supermarkets being bare of vital necessities is a pretty good glimpse of what Bernie's socialist regime would look like. If you're into that, feel the burn, folks. Ethan Johansson, I don't want nationalization of agriculture. I do want the fucking grain processors to pay us at least what it costs for me to grow it. Quota, hashtag quota system. I take it you're a farmer or something? Alex Spastic, thanks for the fun rage. Godspeed. Not Matthew Connor. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another candidate, you got a 50-50 chance. Hold on, we got to do this Scott Steiner style. See, normally when you go one-on-one with another candidate, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% chance. But I got a 66 2/3 chance. The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you, Bernie. He's a genetic freak, and he's not normal. Oh, man. We need Scott Steiner on this stream bad. Can he just walk on stage and do the Steiner recliner to both these guys, please? Jonathan Stoffel, $5 says Biden's buckled into his podium to keep him from wandering off. Boy, with how high the podiums are, you almost can't see his life alert bracelet. Captain Spire, seemed they kept the old kids far apart. Yeah, they talked before the debate started on CNN about how they consulted with medical professionals to see what the safest distance was. Jesus Christ. They should consult with CPS to see what the safest distance is from Biden at a fucking playground. But anyway, let's see here. Arts 1984. Hey, Razor, enjoy your content. Think Joe ran out of corn pops yet? I think if he runs out of corn pops, you'll find him in a preschool cafeteria. Glow in the dark. Socialist medical is just survival of the fittest. Moist John. How did the left, after downplaying it, flip Corona politically? And what neocon Fed advised Trump on his awful response to this? I don't think he's been awful. I think he's handed off the response to other people because he's so frustrated with the way the media has flipped on it that I honestly think it's at a point where Trump can't hide his disgust at what the media is, at how they're trying to flip this against him. Even though he was dealing with an impeachment when this came about. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally because of Democrats that we couldn't at least put some kind of response, because how the fuck were you going to do that when you're basically fighting to stay out of prison? So I think that's largely why he has delegated that responsibility to Pence and other people. And I think that's the right call, actually. I really don't think... And that press conference I thought was pretty good. It's the only one I've watched, though, in fairness. I haven't seen a whole lot of the other ones, so if he totally fucked the dog on those, I wouldn't really be aware of it. I haven't seen any clips that look particularly offensive, so... Let's see here. Oh, Howard Walters. Would you rather vote for Bernie or have your porn search history be made public? I think everything would be made public under Bernie, wouldn't it? The DCV Titan debate night. Are you ready to slumber? I think Biden is, for sure. He's pretty much got his nightcap on already, although it's plugged into his skull for some reason. Oh, shit, we're back. God damn it.
Welcome back to the CNN Univision Democratic presidential debate live from Washington, D.C. And as we noted, Arizona will vote on Tuesday. We solicited questions from undecided Democratic voters there. One is from
they're taking questions from Arizonans even though they're too scared to fly there. That's great.
A question for Senator
That's great.
Women are the canaries in the coal mine of the conservative agenda. Our access to health care is at risk from the Federalist Society's remaking of the courts.
Oh, shut the fuck up, you
abusive
cow.
partners' access to guns.
And let's be real, law
Women
professor
are
from Chandler,
disproportionately
Arizona,
affected
they say, fuck
by
you,
bail
this bitch is from
requirements,
California.
Social Security cuts,
She may
and
have
cuts to
moved
public
to
education.
Chandler. Let's be
How
real.
will your cabinet ensure the best advice?
Chandler,
on issues
very
that affect
popular
women's
destination for
physical and
California
financial
castaways.
health? Thank you.
My cabinet, my
Help, our courts are
administration
under
will look
threat
like
from people
America.
who only
Last I
want to
heard,
interpret the
over
law
half the
instead of
people in
making
America
it.
are women,
Help,
and that will be the
please, I'm being
representation of my
repressed.
cabinet and my administration. And in terms
Old
of
women
politics,
lying in ponds distributing
Unlike,
swords is no basis
Joe,
for a system of government.
I have consistently believed and have a 100% lifetime voting record.
You're not the
for groups
president,
like
just
NARAD,
some watery
that
tart.
gives
Threw a
a
sword
woman
at you.
right to control her own body, not the government. I have believed that we have got to move aggressively to deal with domestic violence.
Bloody peasant.
I have aggressively and I think effectively.
Can we just
made
change
the
this to a
case
Monty
that we
Python
cannot
stream,
have
please?
women in America earning 80 cents on the dollar compared to men, and if you're a minority woman, it's 50 or 60 cents on the dollar. We need to have universal, affordable, high-quality child.
Oh my God! Universal
so
child
women
care,
who
universal
are
health
single
care,
or
universal
married
college,
can
universal
go
fuck.
off to work and know that
Fucking
their kids
cool
are
it
gonna
with the
be
universal.
taken
Shit.
care of. So I think if you look at my agenda, which is on BernieSanders.com, what you will find,
Is a
very
bunch of
strong
fucking
agenda
vagaries
in fighting
and
for the
doublespeak.
rights of women who today are under incredible political assault by Trump and Republican governors all across this country.
Vice President
I
Biden.
will respond.
They're seriously
Yes, thank you.
complaining that
Number
the
one,
president has
I agree
installed
with,
constitutionalists
with
onto
the,
courts.
the
This is
question
where
of
we're at. They're
the
mad that there
underlying
aren't enough
premise
activists
of
on the
Amy's,
court. By the way, it's
question.
illegal
Number
to be a
one,
judge
I
who is an
commit that
activist.
if
That
I
is
elect the
actually
president,
explicitly
have an
forbidden by the
opportunity to
Constitution.
appoint someone
We've
to the
skated
courts,
right by
it
that.
will be-
We're in
I'll appoint
fucking
the
Mad
first
Max
black woman
land
in the
now.
courts. It's required
It's now
that they have
it's the status
representation
quo
now.
on the Democratic
It's long
side to have a
overdue.
judge who does not
Secondly,
interpret the law
if I'm
but
elected
invents it.
president,
That's just
my
where we're
cabinet,
at.
My administration will
Watch
look
my
like
stench
the
from the
country,
bench rant
and I commit that I
for
will,
further
in fact,
extrapolation on that
appoint
topic.
pick a woman to be vice president. There are a number of women who are qualified to be president tomorrow. I would pick a woman to be my vice president. Number three, I'm the guy that wrote the domestic violence law. And I'm
Did he
the
just
guy
say
that
he
put in
would
the
pick?
prohibitions
Did he basically
that
just
no
say a
one who
woman would be
abuses
his vice
someone
president?
else
Did I
should be
hear that
able to
correctly?
own a gun.
Did
Period.
Biden
You
hear
should
that
not be able to
correctly?
own a gun. I would get the boyfriend exception.
I think it sounds to
amended.
me
Now
like
I've
either
gotten past
Hillary
that.
or
If you are
Kamala.
going to stay away from a court, you have a child with someone, you cannot own a gun. No one should be able to own a gun who has abused.
I guess
a
that
woman,
proves me
period.
wrong. I thought for
Mr.
sure
Vice
that
President,
Beto was going to be
if
the
I could just
guy,
follow
but
up.
he
Just to
might
be
wind
clear,
up
you
being
just
like the
committed here
gun
tonight
czar
that
or
your
something.
running mate, if you get the nomination, will be a woman.
Yes.
Okay, let me
Senator
ask-
Sanders, will you
right
make
now,
that same
may I
commitment?
just respond to Joe's question? Right now, a woman's right to control her own body is under massive assault, unprecedented assault.
How?
Joe, you have in the past
What's
on more
unprecedented
than
about
one
it? I
occasion
mean,
voted for the Hyde Amendment, which says that
Is there like a law I didn't hear about that's going to be passed?
Funding for an abortion. Is that still your view, or have you modified it?
It is not my view. It's not my view. And by the way, everybody who's been in the Congress voted for the Hyde Amendment at one point or another because it was locked in other bills. The reason why I affirmatively came out opposed to the Hyde Amendment was that if we're going to have public funding,
If you got a problem with Roe v. Wade being overturned, don't talk to that Roe bitch.
Requirement that you have Hyde
She's
Amendment,
not a big
woman
fan
who
of it.
Doesn't have the money, could not.
Of course, you
have
could talk to her
coverage under
if she
healthcare.
wasn't dead.
I'm glad.
Number two, and I've done
died
that, did that
the
a
other
while ago, okay?
well, like a year
Number
ago,
one. Number two,
something
I
like
would
that.
send
2017, I
immediately
think.
to the desk of the United States Congress.
Media
when
went
I'm
out of their way to
elected
not
president,
cover that
president,
one because
a
she turned into a
codification
massive
of Roe v. Wade
anti-abortion
amended by
advocate,
case.
even though she
'Cause I
won
think it is a
Roe v.
woman's
Wade.
right to choose.
She
I think
wanted
it's
it
a woman's
overturned.
Opportunity to be able to make that decision, and in fact, I've gotten 100% rating from NARAL as well.
Senator Sanders, before we move on, I just want to get you to respond.
You have a lifetime 100% voting record from NARAL?
I know my record of late.
I know my record collection. I mean,
Well, all right. I mean, I think one of the differences, not to pick a bone here, is I have been consistent. All right, I've always believed in that, and you have not. I'm glad you've changed your views.
Senator, just to be clear, the vice president committed to picking a woman as his running mate. If you get the nomination, will you?
In all likelihood, I will.
oh
To
my
me,
gosh.
It's not just nominating.
That is effectively a confirmation of
It is making sure that we have a progressive, and there are progressive women out
of
there.
a
So my very
Alexandria
strong tendency is to
Ocasio-Chavez
move in that
appointment.
direction.
That'd be
Let's
interesting.
turn now to immigration.
Talk about
Vice
could there
President
be a
Biden,
less
you
electable
recently
ticket
said
than that?
for the first
Fuck.
time that the Obama-Biden
Bernie fucking
administration
Chavez.
made a big mistake in deporting millions.
There's something
of
appropriate
immigrants.
about those
But
two
you
names
didn't
side by side.
publicly speak out against it at the time. What commitment will you make tonight that as president you won't deport millions again?
Number one, I said
What
that
commitment
took
will you
too
make
much
tonight
too
to
long
not
get it
enforce
right.
the law?
And the president
What
did
the
get
fuck?
it right by DACA, as well as making sure that he
Is
tried
there
to
any
protect
other
parents as
circumstance
well.
under which that
And
would be
by
an
the way,
appropriate question?
Moving on an immigration bill as well. The fact is that we already had a vote on an immigration bill, by the way, and
Talk
Bernie
about a
voted against
shit
it.
unelectable
The
platform,
immigration
by
bill.
the
Had he
way.
voted for it, and
Left,
it
right,
passed,
center,
we
I've
already
said
have
it for a
6
long ass
million
time.
undocumented
Immigration,
citizens
illegal immigration is
as I
unpopular.
speak right now.
You can talk,
But I will send to the
Democrats
desk
can virtue
immediately
signal all they
a
want. You
bill
get
that
them behind
requires
closed doors.
to
90%
access
of them
to
will vote
citizenship
against
for
illegal
11
immigration.
million undocumented folks.
They do.
number
No one
Number
likes
two,
it.
in the first
No one
100
likes
days
because
of
it's
my administration,
illegal.
No one.
It's a
will be
totally
deported
rational
at all.
position to want
From
our
that
immigration
point on,
laws
the only
enforced.
deportations that will take place are commissions
And
of
this is the
felonies
secret, by the
in
way,
United
to
States
how
of
many
America.
times Joe
So to be
Arpaio
clear,
got
only
reelected
felons
in
get
Arizona.
deported
People
and
were like, how did
everyone
that
else is
maniac get
Yes.
reelected? Because he
Yes,
was
and the
pushing an
reason is it's
extremely
about uniting families.
popular
It's
position.
about
That's
making
why.
sure that we can both
And
be a
even
nation of
Democrats
immigrants
voted for him.
as
Hate to break
well
that to
as
you.
a nation that is decent.
Let me respond, and I'll answer your question. Let me respond to Joe's comments about
1-800-CALL ICE.
2007 immigration bill. That bill was opposed by LULAC, the largest Latino organization in America, the Southern Poverty Law Center.
If we want to
called its
clear
guest
out
worker
that
program akin
Univision
to slavery.
moderator, someone
There
should just
wasn't
show
really
up
a
with an
vote
ice
on the
hat
bill.
on.
It was killed because there was a vote on the Dorgan Amendment. I think it was 49-48.
Oh, yeah,
You know who voted
Gabbard's
with me on
just
that
as
one,
bad.
Joe?
Absolutely.
Barack
You're
Obama.
totally right.
He
I've
understood
said for a long
that
time,
that
Gabbard is
proposal
play acting as a
was
moderate.
bad idea.
Kind of like
That
Biden,
means,
honestly.
slavery in America, where workers,
Biden, you notice
guest
Biden
workers
looks worse and
are
worse and
forced to
worse
stay with their
the
employers.
less
But in terms of immigration in general,
other
let me
moderates
outline
get on
some of the
stage.
things that we do. Day one, we restore the legal status of 1.8 million young people and their parents in the DACA
I
program.
think Bernie
Number
is.
two,
It's kind of a
immediately,
good
we
situation
end
for
these
Biden,
ICE
though,
raids,
because if
which
you
are
have the
terrorizing
contrast of
communities
Bernie
all over
against
this
him, he
country.
seems
Three,
less
we changed the border policy
extreme.
under my
If it was
administration.
Biden against an
No federal
actual
agent
moderate, I
will
think
ever
you
grab
would
little
realize
babies from the
Biden
arms of their
actually is
mothers.
not
And fourth,
nearly
I
as
think
close
we
to the
can
center
pass
as
what
he
the
likes to
American
portray
people want,
himself,
and that
and
is
as the media
comprehensive
seems to like
immigration
to
reform,
portray him as.
path towards citizenship
You know,
for
he
the 11
believes very
million
strongly in a lot of
Senator Sanders,
socialized
creative
medicine
suggest
programs and so
positions
forth.
like
He
this
is, of
send the
course,
message
adamantly
that
against the
when a
Second
Democrat
Amendment.
is in the White House, the border is open. Do they?
No, that's just, I mean, that's what Trump says, and that is a total lie. What we're talking about is a
You just caught a bunch of
sensible
Chinese
policy
nationals
supported
trying to
by
sneak
the
into the
American
country
people.
through the southern
Nobody is
border.
about
What the fuck?
open
They
borders,
tried
and
to
of course,
sneak
Trump
in
lies
through
about that.
Mexico.
But the bottom line is, right now, you have
A bunch
in
of
this
people
country
with
people
coronavirus,
who
I
have been
believe.
here for
They were trying
decades,
to
they're
escape
working hard,
China.
They're raising their kids. They're an important part of our agricultural economy, our construction economy. These are good people.
That just happened like a
and
week
yet
and a
they're
half ago,
living
by the
in
way. It was
terror.
hilarious.
And
I
we
forget
have
how
gotta
many.
end
It was
that
like a
terror
dozen or
and
so.
End the ICE raids
think.
and move toward a path toward citizenship.
Let me set the record straight, as some of this said. You know,
Hell,
the
one of the,
idea that it
no,
was
two of the
slavery.
9/11
Barack Obama
hijackers
supported
snuck into the
that
country
bill,
through the
that
southern border with
immigration bill.
Mexico.
Teddy
No one talks
Kennedy
about that.
supported that immigration
Snuck
bill.
into
I
Arizona.
supported it. I doubt whether
went
those
to
people
flight
think it's
school
slavery.
in
But-
Arizona.
and by the way, right after his vote against that,
I mean, a
he went
bunch
on
of
a blue
people
job
died
strike
on 9/11
and
because our
continued to
fucking
canard that
border
they're taking
our border
jobs,
control is
immigrants
just
are taking
non-existent.
jobs from
It's been
America,
non-existent.
which is one of the Republican canards. Right after that vote, that no vote, and so come on, this is. You think Ted Kennedy is for slavery? You think I
Well,
was for slavery? You think
when you-
people voted for it for slavery?
Just-
Now, with regard to your issue, your question relative to whether or not I would deal with supporting the border.
Supporting the border.
We can deal with securing the border by
Support-
national technical means. All the bad things are coming through ports of entry right now.
Thank you,
We don't need a
Patchouli.
wall.
Two
And
of the
by way,
hijackers
I
were
would
from
immediately,
Arizona. The
as
other two were from
president,
Florida.
surge to the border.
Two
I would
countries
end
with a
this notion
notoriously
for the first time in history that people seeking
large
asylum have to be
problem
in
with illegal
squalor
immigration.
on the other side of the river. And
two
in
states with a-
desperate
sorry,
situation,
two
they
countries.
should be able to come to the United States and have a judgment
Hard.
made as whether or not
Every
they
time
qualify.
Biden speaks,
would
I
also
gaff
surge
by
to the border.
proxy. It's
Immigration
crazy.
judges
It's
can make decisions
his
immediately,
verbal
and
gaffes
no one
are
would be
contagious.
Put in jail while waiting for their hearing.
Senator Sanders?
That's kind of what I've been saying throughout the
Bernie
entire
overhears me
campaign.
say the word contagious,
what
dives
we-
under the
what
podium.
we need is, at the border, hundreds of administrative judges. We need to deal with people who are seeking asylum based on international law. We need not to be dividing children from their
International
parents and
law?
dividing
What the
families up.
fuck?
We need a humane border.
You're gonna
policy.
set
And I'll tell you what,
U.S.
actually, when I
policy
speak
based
as
on
the son of an
international law.
immigrant,
That is, did
my
I hear
father
that
came to this
correctly?
country from Poland at the age
I don't
of
care if
17,
what
had
the
a nickel in his
fuck.
pocket, couldn't speak English, didn't have much of an education.
Oh, it is boring
I
as
will
fuck.
end on day one the demonization, the ugly demonization.
I mean,
from
it's
the
two
White House
sleepy
of
old
the
men arguing
immigrant
about
community
semantics.
in
How
this
could it
country.
not be
We've got a
boring?
president who is trying to divide us up. My administration brings our people together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American.
Thank you, Senator Sanders.
God.
Vice President Biden, you opposed sanctuary cities as a presidential candidate in 2007. Where do you stand now? Should undocumented immigrants arrested by local police be turned over to immigration officials?
No.
What?
Senator Sanders?
Of course not. Look, and one of the things that goes on when you have that process is that not only the psychological terror, and I've talked to these kids.
Psychological
Kids are scared to
terror
death
of
in America
enforcing
when
our
they come
fucking
home
immigration.
from school that their
Why are they
mom and dad
here?
will not be there, maybe deported.
So their argument is
what
don't
we
enforce
need to
the
do,
immigration laws to
is
stop
to
them from
end,
coming
and I
here.
will
And
end
once they're
on day
here,
one,
they can't be
the ICE
reported.
raids,
So at that point, do
that
you
have
even
been so
have a
harmful
border?
to so many
Fuck,
people.
at that
And
point,
we
do you even
need
have a
to
Borders
do,
bookstore? For
again,
fuck's
what
sake.
the American people want us to do. I'm the son
Fuck,
of
there's
an
probably
immigrant.
more
This
security
is
to
a country
borders.
significantly built.
At
by
least then, if I
immigrants,
steal a
built
fucking
by
book, someone will
slavery.
fucking nab me.
And
Shit.
what we have got to do is appreciate each other
Other.
and end this demonization and divisiveness coming from the Trump administration.
Senator
I
Sanders,
add one thing
Senators,
to that, please.
go ahead.
Listen, look, we are a nation of immigrants. Our future rests upon the Latino
I mean, this is
community
not an
and for the
electable
immigrants.
position for either of these
24
guys,
of
by
every
the way.
100
I mean,
children
now
in
Biden is
school today,
on
from
camera
kindergarten through high school,
admitting
is a
he would
Latino.
not report
Right now,
illegal
today.
immigrants.
The
He does
idea
not think
that any
illegal
American
immigrants,
thinks it
once
doesn't pay for
apprehended
us
in
to
the States,
significantly invest in
by
their future
police. By the way,
is
that
absolutely
suggests
a
that they were
bizarre
already
notion,
involved in a
because if we
separate
do not
crime
invest,
apart from
everything
breaking
that the very
immigration law.
wealthy are concerned about and
That
the
he doesn't want
xenophobes
them
are
sent
concerned
back
about
after that.
will in fact get worse, not better. We
Do we
should
even have
be
a country at
embracing
that point?
bringing them in, just like what happened with the Irish immigrants after the famine, just what happened to the Italians, etc. We've been through this
Fuck
before.
me sideways. What the
Xenophobia is
fuck?
a disease.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. Let's move now to the climate crisis. I'm coming right to you, Senator Sanders. The World Health Organization calls the climate crisis a, quote, health crisis. and warns that climate change could fuel the spread of infectious diseases. Can you point to specific measures
We're
in
going to
your
try and
climate
link
plan that
coronavirus
address
to climate
that threat?
change? It
Well, of course
spreads during the fucking cold.
Look, this is what the scientists are telling us, the same scientists who make your point there, Jay.
What side?
What
Who?
they're telling us
Beekman's
is
World?
if
Who
we
the
don't get
fuck?
our act together in the next 7 or 8 years, there will be irreversible damage done to this planet. We're talking about cities in America, from Miami to New Orleans to Charleston, South Carolina, being
Man.
underwater. We are talking about
They do
severe
seem, it
droughts,
does
which
seem to me
prevent
that
farmers
CNN are a
in the Midwest
little
from
more
growing
in the
food
tank for Bernie
that
than
we need. We're
Biden.
talking about
They do
extreme
seem to be
weather
teeing up his
disturbances,
questions a little
which
more
hit
because
Houston,
like
Texas,
if you've watched any
Venezuela,
of these previous debate
just a
streams with
few
me,
months ago.
you know, fucking Bernie could
We are
transition a
talking
talk about
about
fucking
the
kung fu
absolute
fighting
need.
into a discussion
I
about
wanna
climate
hear
change. A
Joe's
fucking
position
20-hour
on it.
dissertation. I swear to God.
This is not a middle of the ground thing. This is not building a few more solar panels.
This
or a
man
few
could
more
fuck up an
wind turbines.
orgasm talking about
What
climate
this
change. I
is
swear
about
to
is
God.
transforming our energy system as quickly as we humanly can away from fossil fuel. It is insane that we continue to have fracking in America. It
It's
is
insane to me
absurd
that
we
someone
give
can utter the
tens of
word
billions of
fracking without
dollars a year
busting out
in
laughing.
tax
That's
breaks and subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. This has got.
I don't give a shit.
And now
I'm
if we
mentally
love our
5
kids
years old. It's
and
okay.
future generations.
Vice President Biden?
First thing that President Obama and I were summoned to the State Department, the Defense Department for was to meet with all the chiefs. The single greatest threat to our national security, they said, is climate change.
What?
Single greatest threat to our national security.
Single biggest
as
threat is
populations have to move
to our
because they
national
can no
security
longer
is
live
climate
where they are,
change.
because their islands are sinking,
Whew.
because we saw what happened in Darfur with the change in weather patterns.
Of
and the
course, if
desert
it gets
there.
warm,
It-
then
it
hot
causes
little
war. It
kids
causes
might
great
go to the beach
migrations,
in short
great
shorts. I don't
migrations.
know.
They said that's the single biggest problem. Number two,
Joe
there's an
Biden,
awful
a
lot of
man who
people
enjoys
today
the minor
who are,
things in
fact,
life.
getting ill because of the changes in the environment, particularly up where Bernie lives. There's nothing to do with him, but having up in the Northeast, because you have.
If it gets
everything
much
from
hotter,
beetle
it'll be
infestation
drier
and
in
a whole
here
range of
than a
things that are
feminist
causing
around a male
diseases as
feminist.
well,
It'll
in
be.
addition to eliminating foliage.
So,
But
Vice
that-
President Biden, let me ask you then. You talk about this being the
That's
number one
fracked.
crisis.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
told you at the Pentagon. The
Fracking?
price tag for your
I
climate
can't be the
plan
only one who
is
thinks
about
fracking
$1.7
sounds like a
trillion.
swear word
That's
from
about
2000
$14
AD.
trillion less than
magazine,
Senator
right?
Sanders
Right?
wants to spend on this.
Sounds
Is
like
your
something
plan
Judge
ambitious
Dredd should
enough
say.
to tackle this crisis?
Yes, it is ambitious enough to tackle the crisis, because what you go to joebiden.com, I lay out the first 13 things I would do immediately upon being elected. Number one,
Number
we're gonna
one, I
once
would
again
ask
reinstate all the cuts
how
the
I left
president
my
made
home.
and everything from the CAFE standards, how far automobiles can go, investing in light rail so that we
Number
take cars
two,
off
I
the
would
road,
ask if
making sure
Grover
we're in a position
Cleveland
where
would join
we
my
are
cabinet.
now in a position that we put 500,000 charging stations in areas that, in fact, all new highways that we built, making sure that we spend $500
Fracking
billion
does kinda
a
sound
year
like something from
in the
Battlestar
federal
Galactica
government
a little
paying
bit.
for transportation, the vehicles we
It
run, all of
does.
those being
Little bit.
converted to be able to run
Biden's
on
a
low-carbon
Cylon. You
fuel
stop that.
and/or
Cylons are
be able
far
to
more
run on
lifelike.
no carbon fuel at all by having them move into a direction that is
Light rail is a
all-
fucking
all
joke.
carbon free.
May as well,
We can do these
seriously,
things.
you
We
may
can
as
lay
well at
down
this
the
point
tracks where
rename the
nothing
light
can be
rail the
changed
fucking
by the next
coronavirus
president or
trolley.
following president, the one beyond that. In addition to that, we also have to, I would immediately rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, which I helped put together.
Fracking
I
is
would call
literally
the
from
100
no, that's
nations,
frelling.
over 100
You're thinking
nations
of
with 100
frelling.
major polluters to the United States in the first 100 days to up the ante and make it clear that, in fact, if they didn't, there'd be a price to pay. And lastly, I would be right now organizing the hemisphere and the world to provide $20 billion for the Amazon, for Brazil, no longer to burn the Amazon so they could have
Oh
forests,
my God,
no
again with
longer
the
forests, but
burning
they
of the
could have
fucking
farming,
Amazon.
and say, this is what we're going to do. They absorb more carbon.
There's so much
in the
disinformation
Amazon
about the
and
fucking
regions
Amazon
burning
and the
now
burning
than
of it.
we
It's
emit in one
I
entire
can't
year
and I
per
can't
year.
even
Thank
get
you.
into
Thank
it
you,
because
Vice
it's such a
President. Senator Sanders.
long-winded
All well
fucking.
and good, but nowhere near enough.
Can I just say
you mentioned
bullshit
we
and
started
move
this
on? Let's just,
debate
for convenience's
talking
sake,
about
let's say bullshit and move
a
on.
warlike situation in terms of the coronavirus. And we said we have to act accordingly. You said it. I think you're right. I said it. We
We've
to
got
act
to stop burning the
dramatically,
Amazon.
boldly,
I love
if we're
free
gonna save
two-day
lives
shipping.
in this country and around the world. I look at climate change in exactly the same way. It's not a question of re-entering the Paris Accord. That's fine. Who cares? Not a big deal. The deal right now is, do we have the courage? And this gets back to the point I'm trying to make all night long. Do we take on the healthcare industry and tell them their profits are not more important than healthcare for all? Do we take on the fossil fuel industry? Look, in terms of the fossil fuel industry, these guys have been lying. They've been lying for years, like the tobacco industry lied 50 years ago. Oh, we don't know if
At least Biden admitted supporting the border.
Fuels, if oil and carbon emissions are causing climate change. They knew. ExxonMobil knew. They lied.
Hey, look, it's another industry Bernie Sanders is going to go after.
It's an issue of enormous consequence. What Joe was
What a
saying
rare
was
occurrence.
nowhere near enough. It's not a question of money. Give me a minute here. We have time to talk about this.
It's not a question of money.
world-shaking
I've got
event.
shitloads of it.
I understand. I just want to give him a chance to respond,
Okay,
and then we can come
fine.
back.
Let's
to you.
stay on.
We're staying on this issue.
And
No
how
more-
does
no
a
more
fucking
subsidies for
socialist
fossil
become a
fuel industry.
millionaire
No
anyway?
more drilling on
How does
federal
that
lands.
work?
No more drilling.
I mean, I
including
know how they
offshore.
become millionaires
No
in fucking
ability for the
Venezuela.
oil industry to continue to drill. Period. Ends. Number one. Number two. We're in a situation as well where we cannot.
Mike D, someone tell Bernie his lake house is on fire.
To change the dynamic in terms of what we can do to set in motion. The fact that he says climate change, Paris Accord doesn't mean much. We could get everything exactly right. We're 15% of the problem. 85% of the problem is over there. We need someone who can deal internationally. We need
Over
someone who can
there.
bring the
Where's
world
there,
together again.
Biden?
We need
Where's
someone who can move in
there?
a direction that, in
Say
fact,
'em,
if
'cause
you
they've
violate
donated
the
to you.
commitment you make, you
Say
will
their
pay
name,
an economic
Joe.
price for it, like what's happening in China. They're exporting coal.
This is why, through the
significant coal.
haze
Thank
of
you.
fucking
Obviously,
dementia,
the Paris
there's a
Accord
more
is
nefarious
useless.
element to Joe
But it
Biden,
doesn't go anywhere. If you laugh,
where
you're joking,
he's
you're missing the
cognizant
point.
of how full of
This
shit he
an
is.
existential
There's like a Bill
crisis.
Clinton
Bingo.
element to him.
You talk about, I'm talking about stopping fracking as soon as we possibly can.
This is my new meme, by the way. Say it all together now. The #1 foreign donator to the DNC is what? China. Thank you. And Al Gore sold them our nuclear secrets.
I'm talking about
China.
speaking to China, to Russia, to countries all over the world. And in this moment, making the point that instead of spending $1.8 trillion on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other, maybe we should
And no,
put our
not that
resources
China.
and fight our common
Not
enemy,
the ninth
which is
wonder of the
climate change.
world.
I know your heart is in the right place, but this requires dramatic, bold action. We've got to
Nope,
take
not
on the
Israel.
fossil fuel industry.
China
Your
first.
plan does not do that.
Even
My
above
plan
Israel.
takes on the fossil fuel industry and it unites the world. He just got finished saying. What's he going to do? He's going to bring these countries together, make it clear to them.
And
I'm
no, not
saying
Saudi
you bring them
Arabia,
together,
believe it or not.
Make them live up to the commitments. If they don't live up to the commitments,
What's up?
they pay a financial price for it.
Man, Bear Pig
They
is real.
pay an economic price for it.
I'm super
Because
serial.
We can do everything. My state is 3 feet above sea level. I don't need a lecture on what's going to happen about rising seas.
Your
I know what
state's
happens. I
primary
watch
tourist
Oklahoma
destination is a
Peninsula,
screen
just
door
like it is
factory.
in
Shut the
South
fuck up,
Carolina
Joe
and the
Biden.
rest. Something I know a little bit about. I wrote the first climate change bill that was in the Congress, which PolitiFact said was a game changer.
Talk
I'm the
about
guy
how
who came
how
along
weak
and
is this
said with
stage.
Dick Lugar that we're going to
People don't talk about this enough.
if you don't cut down your
Regional
forests.
candidates
I've been
are a
way ahead of
problem.
this curve.
Barry
This
Goldwater
idea
ran into
that
this
all of a
problem.
sudden
John
Bernie
McCain
found
ran into
out
this
is
problem.
amazing.
Okay, look, I'm from
Senator,
Arizona.
Bernie
I
didn't
think
find
I
it
can
out.
say
Bernie
this.
is listening
Arizona
to
is
the
relatively
scientists.
regional. It's just a southwestern. It's
you're
huge. I mean,
talking about
Phoenix as the
making
5th
countries
largest
around the world fulfill
city
their
in the country,
commitments.
but
Those
you know,
commitments are
it's a
not enough.
regional problem.
But
We
what
have two
this
candidates
moment
on
is
stage, one
about,
from
Joe, is that the
Delaware,
scientists
the
are
other from
telling us
fucking
they
Vermont. That is a
underestimated the
disadvantage
severity
right
of
off the bat
crisis.
from
They were wrong.
a guy
The
from New
problem
York.
is more severe.
Right?
So all that I'm saying right here is that we are fighting for the future of this planet, for the well-being.
People don't
of
talk
our
about
kids
that enough, and
future
it does
generations.
impact
You cannot
elections.
continue,
Where
as
your
I
candidate
understand
is from
Joe believes,
affects how
to
you're able to
continue
build,
fracking. Correct me
you
if
know,
I'm
how
wrong.
you're able to
What
win
we
from
need to
state
do
to
right
state.
now
It actually does have an
is
effect.
bring
Maybe
the
not
world
that big of
together,
one in
tell
the
the
age of the
fossil
internet,
fuel
but
industry
it is
that we are
actually
gonna move
a hindrance.
aggressively to wind, solar, sustainable
Thank you.
energies, and energy efficiency.
Oliver, I
One
think
more
that
bonus
sleepy
factor. And
face
by
is
the
for
way,
Joe Biden
on the
right now. I think he
Recovery
could
Act,
actually
I
use
was
one.
able to make sure we invested
And somebody,
$90
please God, somebody
billion
change his doo-doo diety.
in making sure
Please.
we brought down the price of solar and wind. That is
Oh, we got
lower
plenty
than
of
the
wind
price
on
of
stage.
coal.
It's okay,
That's
Biden.
why not another new coal plant will be built. I did that while you were watching. Number one.
I want to
Number
build
two,
a Bold
we're in
King
a
coal
situation
plant.
where
I actually,
we in fact have the ability.
wanna build a
to
Nat
lay
King
down the
coal
tracks
plant.
where no one can change the dynamic, and that's why we should be talking about things like I've been talking about for years. High-speed
Waco
rail,
Joe.
taking
Oh
millions of
shit.
automobiles off the
Oh
road,
shit.
Making sure that we move in a direction.
Can we get a
where
flamethrower
no
on a
more-
tank?
No more
Pull it
drilling
up
on
to this
federal
building,
lands,
please?
Making sure that we're
I disavow that
invested,
remark.
Changing the
That was a joke.
entire fleet of the United States military to. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Where the
I
fuck
wanna
is
talk
Janet
about
Reno
fracking,
when you need her?
Because you want to ban fracking,
Yes.
which is a method of extracting natural gas. The shift towards
I think this
natural gas
debate
and away from
is an
coal
effort to
has
extract natural
resulted
gas.
in reduced U.S. carbon emissions. So how can the U.S. transition to your targeted goal of zero emissions with fracking completely out of the picture?
Because we have to invest in an unprecedented way. In an unprecedented way. You
I
started
think
off
both
by
of you
saying
are
we're talking about
unprecedented.
$13, $14 trillion investment. That is a lot of money. And I've been criticized for that. But I don't know what the alternative is if we have plans for the
Muso
future of
Duccio
this
says,
planet. So we
say
gotta
it
be
with me,
dramatic.
Razor.
And
Ching
what's
chong
being
wing
dramatic
wong.
is massive investments in wind, in solar,
That's problematic.
under the in sustainable energies in general, and research and development, in making our buildings.
Oh, solar
all
is
over
garbage, by
this
the way.
country.
I
My
say
state of
this as
Vermont,
someone who
and
has
around this
lived
country
with
got a lot of
solar
old buildings.
panels.
We
There
can
was a
put
big
millions
craze
and
here
millions of
in
people to
Arizona
work,
about the fucking solar
making
panels,
our
and they're trying to
buildings,
push it again.
energy
Oh
efficient,
my God, it's
moving our
garbage. And the
transportation
maintenance
system
on them.
to
Fuck.
electricity.
The
So
maintenance
what
on
we're
solar
talking about
panels.
is a massive,
They'll fucking leak. They'll leak
unprecedented
water off your.
investment.
Your roof will
That is what
suddenly
the
be
Green
fucking
New
shitting
Deal
water.
is about.
Just
I supported it.
your roof has
and
goddamn
I will
diarrhea.
Fight to implement it.
Thank you so much.
bit like
Senator
both men on
Sanders.
the
We're gonna
stage,
be
really.
Back with more from the CNN Univision Democratic presidential debate.
Not
Stay with
nearly enough fucking commercials here. Of course, who would want to buy ad time on this? Fucking purveyors of ginkgo biloba. Okay. Let's see here. Ooh, let's go to the top. All right. DRT is king. Out of 13 hours I was scheduled to work this weekend, I worked 4. I just hope my job doesn't go kung flu dying. Bright side, I get to paint more minis. Well, here's the thing. What'll probably happen more likely, like this is going to last a while, but here's the thing. If your business cuts hours, probably they're going to cut operating hours too, which cuts down on costs. Which means they'll probably get to stay around. I don't think that many businesses are actually going to go out of business. They'll probably just suspend business for a while. Bane Trump, Joe Biden putting the Dem in dementia. Well done. Well done, sir. Dustin Eaton picking up Doom Eternal. When the fuck is that coming out? I assume it's soon because I've seen a lot about Doom Eternal lately. But yeah, possibly. I think my girl wants to play it, so. Michael Judge, Dems 2020 is the best joke yet of the year. Eyes set on the horizon. Hear about Maryland, another red flag law victim. They've been pushing that pretty hard in Massachusetts. In fact, Massachusetts, the big story is they're suspending gun licenses. Be careful, guys, of this coronavirus shit, because they are using it as a pretext to suspend our Second Amendment rights. It's happened in a number of places already. I believe, was it Pennsylvania I saw? Or might be Chicago. It's somewhere. There's actually been more than one state that I've seen that's trying to push suspending gun rights. And there's a mayor, I believe, as well, who's trying to... A mayor in Chicago, actually. A mayor is just conferred themselves with the authority, because that's totally how that's supposed to work, to revoke the ability to give gun permits and so forth. Which, by the way, I've said it a million times, and the fucking NRA said it for years. You can bash the NRA all you like. They were fucking right about this. That registration leads to confiscation. Well, motherfuckers, you allowed us to saunter down the fucking road of having to have a permit to exercise your constitutionally ordained right, which, by the way, the Constitution only acknowledges human rights, which makes the right to bear arms a human right. It is not a right conferred by the Constitution. The state can ban your right to bear arms tomorrow, and you still have the human right to own guns. That's the whole point of the Second Amendment. That's the whole point of the Bill of Fucking Rights. But anyways, They are using this as a pretext to curtail your constitutional liberty. Sorry, I got up on my fucking soapbox there for a moment. Anywho, Pitland 44, the Soviet bomber v. the Pennsylvania Palooka. Mario Carter 13, America needs Joe Pito chant at the DNC nomination. Yeah, if people can actually show up to the convention. I'm actually curious to see what happens there. Because if we look at the timeline for other countries that have dealt with coronavirus, it's taken at least a few months to get those cases down. By the way, all the people who claimed South Korea was cooking their books, another week of falling cases in South Korea. So it looks like it's not an aberration. It looks like South Korea has figured out how to deal with this. So we need to, and that's, by the way, I don't know if you watched the press conference that Trump and Pence and the whole task force had like an hour ago about coronavirus, but they said they are taking their cues from South Korea, which is probably a good call, because South Korea appeared to be one of the first countries to actually kind of have isolated how to take care of this. Okay, Darth Bobcat. Trump is the wild-eyed youngster in this race. No fucking shit. Next to these fucking decaying old fucking Egyptian mummies, Donald Trump looks like one of the fucking little rascals. Seriously. He's like Stymie on stage. Darth Bobcat. Oh, wait.
Welcome back to the CNN Univision
One
Democratic
more.
presidential debate.
The
on
highly in
Tuesday,
Juggalo.
voters in
Cornholio
Arizona,
has no
Ohio,
TP
Illinois,
for his
and Florida will
bonfolio.
cast
Press.
their votes in the Democratic primary. Here's Univision's Ilya
All right.
Calderon.
Thank you, Jake. Let's move now to foreign
Like I said,
policy.
not nearly
Senator
enough
Sanders.
commercial breaks
There are
here.
about 1.5 million Cuban Americans.
Commercial
living
breaks are
in
like a breath
Florida
of fresh
right
air
now.
on these debates.
Why would they vote for you when they hear you praise a program of Fidel Castro, a dictator who jailed, tortured, and killed thousands of people?
Why would you care? You
I have
advocate
opposed
Castro's positions, bitch.
authoritarianism, whether it's in Cuba,
And so does
whether
your
it's in
channel.
Saudi Arabia, whether it's in China, or whether it is
I'm not
in
generally
Russia.
one to defend
That
Bernie,
is
but fuck.
my life record. I believe, unlike the President of the United States, in democracy, not authoritarianism in Cuba or any place else.
You know, Trump has
What I
never
believe
praised
right
Castro,
now
to my
in this
knowledge.
world is that we are faced with a global crisis and a movement toward authoritarianism. That's what Putin in Russia is leading. That's what MBS in Saudi Arabia is leading. And as President of the United States, unlike Donald Trump, I would put the flag down and say that in this country and in this world, we have got to move.
Which
toward
flag would that be,
democracy and
Bernie? I
human
assume a
rights.
red one.
That is my view and has always been my view.
To be clear, Senator Sanders, Cuba has been a dictatorship for decades. Shouldn't we judge dictators by the violation of human rights and not by any of their alleged achievements?
Well, I think you can make the same point about
Up.
China. China is undoubtedly an authoritarian society. Okay?
You
Would
just-
anybody
Oh,
deny,
shit!
any economists deny, that extreme poverty
He's
in
gonna
China
transition
today
from having
is
bashed-
much less than what it was 40 or 50 years ago.
They
That's a
just
fact.
talked about
So I
coronavirus, and now
think
he's
we
praising
condemn
China. This is why this guy can't
authoritarianism,
win.
Whether it's in China, Russia,
This is why he's
Cuba,
this is
any
why he's
place
getting
else.
reamed in every
But
hole
to simply say
in these
that
fucking
nothing
primaries.
ever done by any of
Oof.
those administrations had a positive
Ugh.
impact on their people. would, I
That
think, be
may
incorrect.
be the
President
moment
Biden,
where
you have
Bernie could
criticized
not possibly
Senator
come
Sanders for
back.
praising Castro's education
That
system.
response right
but
there.
in 2016,
That was
President
rough.
Obama said Cuba made, quote, a great progress in educating young people, and that its healthcare system is a huge achievement that they should be congratulated for. How is that different from what Senator Sanders has said?
He was trying to change.
Yeah,
Cuban
that was-
policies
that
so
was
the
pretty
Cuban people
bad.
would get out from under the thumb of the Castro and his brother. That is to change the policy so that we could, in fact, impact.
You know,
on Cuba's policy
I hate
by
to
getting them
be the
opened
bearer of
up.
bad news,
That was
Biden, but
but the praising of the Sandinistas,
your
the praising
running
of-
mate
of
went
Cuba,
down
the
to one of
praising
those
just now of
communist
China.
dictatorships
China
and
is an
posed in front of a
authoritarian
giant
dictatorship.
portrait of
That's
a
what it is.
fucking
We have to deal
communist
with them because they're
despot
there.
and mass
the idea
murderer.
That they, in fact, have increased the wealth of people in that country.
I'm just thinking out
is
loud
still
here.
marginal, the change that's taken place. It is still, they have 1 million Uyghurs, 1 million Muslims in prison
You
camps
just say
in the
Uyghur?
West. You see what's happening in Hong Kong today. And by the way, the idea that he praised the Soviet Union when it was the Soviet Union.
honeymooned in the
things
Soviet
that they had
Union.
done well. They're an awful dictatorship killing millions
God,
and millions
if
of people.
even
And in addition
Biden's
to that,
equivocating,
we have a
mumbling
circumstance
ass
where
can hit
after
Bernie on this, could
the
you
election
imagine
was all
Trump on
over
a
and we
stage
knew
talking about this shit?
was
Someone
done
with
by-
2 brain cells to carry
by
a
the
static
Russians
charge?
now and interfering with our elections. This
Trump
man
would wear
voted
him like a
against
hat.
sanctioning Russia for interference in our elections.
Senator
I don't
Sanders?
get it.
Well, what you don't get, and this is exactly what the problem with politics
What you
is.
don't get is
All
the
right,
English language. What you don't
Did China
What you don't get is
make
food.
progress in ending extreme poverty over the last 50 years?
That's,
Yes or no?
That's like saying Jack the Ripper.
No, it's not. This is the
Yes,
problem.
it is.
This
That
is
actually wasn't a
the
bad
problem.
little
We can't
comeback from
talk-
Biden, I have to
know
say.
That's a political line. I understand. China's terrible, awful.
That really
nothing
wasn't
ever
bad.
good, Russia, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is, China, of course, is an authoritarian society. It's what I just said.
It's a
But
dictatorship.
that's what I just said 5 minutes ago, you know? And by the way,
Oof.
the question that was asked, quoted Barack Obama,
Oof.
President Obama was more generous in his praise of what
Oh,
Cuba did
shit.
in healthcare and education than I
He's
was. I was
hitting
talking about
Obama
program
on Cuba.
60 years ago in the first year of the Castro revolution. So the bottom line
That's
is
a body
that I
blow
think it's
from
a little bit
Bernie.
absurd if we're going to look at the world the way it is. Of course, we are opposed to authoritarian. And by the way, you know, before it was considered good policy, good idea. I was condemning the dictatorship in
Yeah,
Saudi
well, I
Arabia.
was
And a lot of
condemning
other
the
people in
thing.
Washington
The
with
thing,
me.
you know the thing.
I was condemning the dictatorship in the UAE. You were not.
Thank you, Senator
Yes, I
Sanders.
was.
Vice President Biden.
Look, the idea of occasionally saying something nice about a country is one thing. The idea of praising a country that is violating human rights around the world is, in fact, makes our allies wonder what's going on. What do you think the South Koreans think?
Yeah, it
when
makes
we
it makes
praise-
our
when he
allies
praises
wonder
China
how many
like
more
that? What
missiles
do you
they
think-
can sell
what do
them.
you think the
is
Australians
actually,
believe
I
in
think
the
what it makes
shadow
them
of
wonder.
China? What do you think's happening in Indonesia in the shadow
Let's
of China?
talk about
What do
the
you think is
French
happening in
SAM
terms of Japan in
launchers
the shadow
that
of China?
were fired at our
Words
jets
matter.
during Desert
These
Storm.
are flat out
maybe.
dictators, period. And they should be called for it, straight up. We may have to work out, for example, I was able to help
Let's not
negotiate,
pretend anybody on
a
the
new
stage is
START
working
agreement
out.
with Russia. Not because I like Putin. The guy's a thug.
Mr. Vice President, sticking with foreign policy, you acknowledge that your support and vote for the Iraq War was a mistake. What lessons did you learn from that mistake, and how might those lessons influence your foreign policy decision-making as president?
I learned I can't take the word of a president when, in fact, they assured me that he would not use force. Remember the context. The context
Yes, up to
was
and including the guy
United
you ran with,
Nations
apparently.
Security
What the
Council was gonna
fuck?
vote to insist that we allow inspectors in to determine whether or not
I learned the only
they-
proper
they
way to
were, in
deal
fact,
with
producing
diplomatic
nuclear
incidents is
weapons or
droning
weapons
the
of mass
living shit
destruction.
out of
They
U.S.
were not.
citizens
And what's
without
the first
trial.
thing that happened when we got elected? The President Obama turned to me and said, "Get those troops out of there." I was responsible for getting 150,000 combat troops out of Iraq. I admitted.
What the
14
fuck is
years
going
ago
on?
was in
Did he
space
just lose his
that
voice,
trust
or
me.
what the fuck?
And I'm prepared to compare my foreign policy.
Did he almost swallow his
credentials
dentures? Did
up
you guys
against
catch
my
that?
friend here on any day of the week and every day
Well,
of the
let's
week.
start off with the war in Iraq, Joe. I was there too. I was in the House. I understood. And by the way, let's
the
be
House.
clear about what that vote
You're
was.
old enough to have been
You
in the
were there
House
at
of
the signing,
Sibylla. What the fuck?
A ceremony with Bush. Everybody in the world knew that when you voted for that resolution, you were giving Bush the authority.
Let's talk about when
to go to
Caesar
war. And
crossed
everybody
the
knew that's
Tigris.
exactly what he and Cheney
You didn't do anything.
wanted to do. Most people who followed that issue closely understood that the Bush administration was lying through its teeth with regard to
Why did
Saddam
you let
having
them torch
weapons of
the
mass
Library of
destruction. I understood
Alexandria?
that.
Why?
I was
What?
on the floor of the House time and time again. But the issue is not just the war in Iraq. That was a long time ago.
The Rubicon.
issue
Thank you.
is
Sorry,
the
Tigris.
trade agreement. It wasn't so easy for me to lead the effort against disastrous trade agreements. The issue was
I
the
got my.
bankruptcy
I
bill that you
fuck. I would
supported.
never work as a
The issue
DS9
was
writer.
the high
You got to
demand.
know
The
all
issue
your
was the
ancient
Defense of
rivers to write
Marriage
for
Act.
Star Trek Deep Space
The
Nine.
issue is whether or not.
Although I think in
in
Bernie's
difficult
case it
times,
might be the
God knows
Ganges.
These are difficult times. We're going to have the courage to take on powerful special interests and do what's right
Vice
for the
President Biden.
working families of this country.
Why did you vote not to sanction
I tell
the
you,
Russians?
you know why? Because that had everything. You keep talking about Iran. That was tied to Iran. Russia was in Iran. I think John Kerry indicated his support for what I did. That was undermining the
Oh
Iranian
my
agreement.
God.
That's why.
Not true, Ardman.
That's why, and that's the only reason why.
That is-
I have condemned Russia time
Vice
and
President,
time again.
Vice President Biden.
Everyone's condemned Russia time and time again. It's
The
all you've
idea
done
that
the last fucking 4
I,
years.
in fact, supported the things that he suggested.
Jesus Christ. You think
is not
Boris
accurate.
and
Look,
Natasha
I'm the guy
were
that
just
helped
roaming the
put together
world,
the
fucking
Iran
looking for moose and
got
squirrel?
the inspectors in there. That was my chief of staff was the guy, my foreign policy guy, doing that negotiation. I was the guy that helped put together a 60-nation organization to take on the ISIS.
The
in Iraq
ISIS.
and in Syria. I've dealt with
So
these
far
things.
tonight,
I
we've
know
gotten
them,
the
and I know
YouTube
what they're
from
like, and I
from
know who the
Bernie
good guys are
and
who
the
bad guys
ISIS
are. The fact
from
is,
Biden. Although
this
I'm just a little bit refreshed that he didn't
Bernie's
call it
notion
ISIL.
about
If
how he
Obama was on
embraces
this stage, you know,
folks like the Sandinistas
right
and
before he
Cuba
blew the head
and
of
the
ISIS, I'm
former
sure he
Soviet
would call him
Union,
ISIL.
and talks about the good things they did in China is absolutely contrary to every message we want to send the rest of the
Senator
world.
Sanders.
I have led the effort against all forms of authoritarianism, including America's so-called allies in the UAE
I want.
and in Saudi Arabia. And in
I
fact,
have
as
led
you
the
may
fight
know,
against all forms of
worked with
authoritarianism,
conservative
and as my
Republicans
first act as president, I'll
utilized
hand
for the
all
very first
authority
time
to the
the
federal
War Powers
government.
Act to
Just
get
in
the
case.
United States out of the horrific war in Yemen led by Saudi
Ooh.
Arabia. That's what I did.
The Castro praising
view is
quasi-commie
that
wants
in
to
a world
rap about
moving toward
authoritarianism with us.
authoritarianism,
Oh.
The United States has got to be
Ooh.
the leader, where people all over the
Ooh,
world look
was
to
it good
us
for
Thank
you?
you,
I feel
for
like I
Biden.
need a
Thank
cigarette.
you, gentlemen. I want to change topics
Shit.
and ask each of you about
Give me-
some of
give me
your
some Camel
vulnerabilities
Wides
in
real
this
quick.
election, starting with
You're
you, Vice
running to
President
the
Biden.
store.
Senator Sanders has won more of the Hispanic vote than you in several key states so far. In fact, he doubled your support in California among Hispanics. He almost tripled it in Nevada.
Yeah, we
So
get it.
why is
Brown
your
people
message
don't vote for
not
Bernie.
resonating with Hispanic voters?
Well, look, my message is resonating across the board. Every
Oh,
single
I mean,
state we've been
well,
in, there's
actually,
been a
no. The
significant
reverse has
turnout.
been true in most
Virginia,
states.
Turnout was up 70%.
Bernie
They
is
voted for me.
big.
He didn't bring them out.
He does
I
does
brought them
pretty
out.
well
And
in
number two,
southwestern
look what's happened
states,
in
though.
Mississippi. Look what's happened in North Carolina. Look what's happened in Washington State. Look what's happened across the board. Why is it that I'm winning all those places? What's the reason?
Because everyone
What's
dropped
the
out
reason?
and endorsed
the
you.
reason is because they know
What
I am
the
a Democrat
fuck?
with a capital D.
And by the
who, in
way,
fact,
just for future
believes that
reference,
our
when
base
most
is
people
the
are
base of the
surprised you're
Democratic
even
Party,
still
which are hardworking
alive
men and women
and can remember
who, in
your
fact,
own
are
name,
high school
you might not
educated,
want to ask
African
rhetorical
Americans and
questions like,
minorities, including
why am I
Hispanics, but all
resonating?
minorities, suburban women, people who in
'Cause
fact have
most
a
people
sense
watching
of
try
our
and
place
finish
in the
the
world.
answer to that
That's
question in
why
their
I am
heads,
winning,
and
not
the
just
answer's
winning,
not good
but
for you.
Overwhelmingly winning, not even close in these places.
Senator,
Well,
Just
you
an
know,
op-
Senator
a
Sanders,
lesson in
Senator Sanders,
optics
let me
from
just
Razorfist.
follow up with you about an issue that you're having. For the second consecutive presidential election, you're struggling to gain wide support from African Americans. Why is your message?
Well, it's
not
hard to
resonating
have
with
wide
African
support
American
when
voters?
everyone who supports you is starving to death.
Here is what I believe is happening, and this is an important point, and why I decided to run for president. I think it's imperative that we defeat Trump. I think
Whoever
our
loses the
campaign
nomination, comedy
of
wins.
a biracial, bi-generational, multi-generational grassroots movement is the way to do it. Now, we have won some states. Joe has won more states.
Granted,
have.
you know,
But here's what
like I
we
said,
are winning.
at,
We are
at
winning
least
the
Bernie,
ideological
you
struggle.
can
Even
say this in
states
his
like
defense. At
Mississippi,
least he
where
has
Joe
an
won
organic
victory.
movement.
Turns out
The
that
only
a
time
big
Biden
majority
has an
of the folks
organic
there
movement is when he
believe in
eats a
Medicare
bowl of
for all.
All-Bran,
That's true in almost every state
washes it down
in
with
this
prune
country.
juice.
And the other issue that we don't talk enough about is we are winning the generational struggle. Depending on the state, we're winning people 50 years of age or younger, big time.
50
people
years
30
of age or
and
younger, or
I'm
as I like to
frankly,
call them,
my doubts.
whippersnappers.
If I lose this thing, Joe wins. Joe, I will be there for you. But I have my doubts about how you win a general election against Trump. Will be a very, very tough
Bernie,
opponent
you hear that,
unless you have
folks? Bernie
energy,
has his
excitement,
doubts.
The largest voter turnout in history. And to do that, you are going to have to bring young people who are not great voters. They don't vote in the kinds of numbers they should into the political process. You're going to have to bring Latinos.
Did he just
who
admit
are
his
great
voting bloc
people
doesn't
who have
vote?
The agenda that we need, but
I
also
think he
don't
did.
vote in the numbers that we need. I have my doubts that Vice President Biden's campaign can.
Oh, Bernie
generate
will cuck
that
out.
energy and
I mean,
excitement and that voter turnout.
if
I will
this
do
next
that, and
Super
by the way,
Tuesday goes
let's get
badly
this
enough
straight.
for him, that's
The
pretty much
energy
it. And
so
I gotta
that's
say,
taken
nothing
place
in
so
this
far
debate is
has been, for
disabusing
me,
me of the notion that
70% turnout increase.
He's
in
headed
Virginia.
for the bottom
I
of
can
the
go down
Atlantic
list.
at present
They're
and taking
coming
on
out
water.
For me, and I didn't even have the money to compete with this man in those states.
So long,
I
Abaddon.
virtually had no money. The press kept saying Biden has no money, and they were right. Biden had no money.
These guys, yeah, it's
And
true.
the idea,
You know,
why
I'd
are
love
they
to be
doing
telling
that?
an endless procession of boomer jokes here tonight, but these guys are technically too fucking old to be boomers.
By the way, the idea that everybody supports Medicare for all, he still hasn't indicated how much it's going to cost people. He's yet to know exactly what's going to. So here's my point: people don't know.
Like
the
Biden's
detail
birth
at all.
certificate has an expiration
And the
date.
fact is, I am
Thank you,
winning
sir.
overwhelmingly among Democratic constituencies across the board.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN Univision.
We'll be right back
Democratic
with about
presidential debate.
50,000
Stay
more
right there.
fucking gaffes from Joe here. Some more shit that'll be clipped into oblivion on YouTube. Holy hell. Okay. Right. Sentinel Rex, instead of shaking hands, they touched elbows like absolute cucks. Love your show. Godspeed, man. Steve Karate, your thoughts on the mayor of Champaign, Illinois' steps to deal with COVID-19, which strips the city's populace of nearly every right outlined in the Bill of Rights. That's what I was referring to earlier. The mayor of Champaign, Illinois, basically granted themselves the authority, absent any formal vote, granted themselves the ability to refuse the public the ability to bear arms. Talk about bad timing in the middle of a crisis. I mean, for fuck's sake, I know I've been cleaning my weapons and making sure they're all in working order, just in case. I don't really indulge in the alarmism of some of the post-apocalyptic predictions and so forth, but I did watch my coronavirus video. I think there are common sense things you can do. And those common sense things are you could have a store of water. I told you guys months ago to get some water because you're going to consume it anyway. Everybody drinks water. So just have enough water to last a month or two and have some canned goods because, again, that's going to get eaten too. So, and part of that is I've always been an advocate that you should be a gun owner. So, and have a reliable weapon. Nothing too flashy that can't be relied on in a pinch, and be trained with it. So, and these are common sense things. This isn't crazy Dale Gribble, guns don't kill people, the government does. It's not like that, right? Pocket sand. But it's not like that. Like, it's just common sense stuff where you should honestly probably be doing this stuff anyways, just in case tomorrow a fucking meteor hits or something. So, yeah, that's my thought on that. The orange Ninja Turtle. Actually, the new Ninja Turtle is yellow, and it's a chick, which is gross. I think I preferred Venus de Milo. What's her name? Like Kelsey or something? She's got, like, the name of, like, a gender studies major, and I'm blanking on what the name is. The new IDW Ninja Turtles has a Ninja Turtle who's a chick and uses, like, 9 different weapons. Is like more talented than any of the other Ninja Turtles, and she's got like a stupid, it's like Kelsey or something. Oh, it's garbage. Total fucking garbage. Anyways. Okay, old boy Aladdin. Salam, Razorfist. Since you brought up the C virus, and if it struck those two chumps, does that mean Tulsi wins by default, right? Maybe that's why she's staying in. She's just hoping they both catch coronavirus, and she can slip in there after they both fucking kick it. You know? You could have worse tactics. I have to say, there have been people in the Democratic field with a less viable victory plan than that right there. Mike Depew. COVID v. Bernie. Biden and Tulsi. Last one standing. None of them will be standing by the end. Iggy Thunders. It doesn't matter who's president of the United States. Without state sovereignty, the federal spoil system will grow until the union busts because nullification has no teeth. Okay. Bolo BRL. When the hell did Biden turn into Boomhauer with corn pops? Dangle. Glow in the dark. Will there be an intermission so both can take their meds? I think that's what we're doing right now. Media is propaganda. It went from you're racist to PrEP. It's a deadly virus and Orange Man bad. Yep. Well, here's the thing. Whatever is politically advantageous to them, they're going to advocate. So if if Trump was somehow standing in the way of or bungled people being able to prep, suddenly the Democrats would all be avowed preppers. Like, you'd think they were in a fucking double wide in the Appalachian Mountains, you know what I mean? They'd all turn into Dale Gribble. Testicular tactics. These chumps don't deserve to be in black and white. Have to agree. You said that earlier. Sorry, I read that earlier. Okay. A Hayabusa Paul. The only way to control this virus is to seize the means of production and private property. Orange Man bad. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Alex Spastic, thanks for the fun rage. Thank you for the fun. It's not fun without you guys.
Welcome back to the CNN Univision Democratic presidential debate. Finally,
okay, we're back.
Thanks so much for everything as we end here tonight.
Closing statements.
Let's return to where we began. The coronavirus.
Not a moment too fucking
does
soon,
not
folks.
discriminate based on ideology. It does not care if one is a Democrat.
This is
or a
so
Republican,
dull
a
without the
conservative, a moderate, or
planted
progressive. Senator
audience
Sanders, let me
members.
start with you. What's your
And
closing message tonight?
fucking Tulsi there.
For those who are concerned about, affected by, or dealing with the coronavirus.
To be honest, I'm probably going to die of it.
Everyone. We need to move aggressively to make sure that every person in this country who has the virus, who thinks they have the virus, understands they get all the health care that they need because they are Americans, that we move aggressively to make sure that the test kits are out there, that the ventilators are out there, that the ICU
And that I have
units are out
access
there,
to
the
all of
medical
them,
personnel
please,
are out
God.
there. But Jake,
I don't
if
want to
I
die.
might also say that in this moment of economic uncertainty, in addition to
Oh,
the
God. Again,
coronavirus,
like I said at the outset, it
is
seems
time
to me like
ask
they wrote
how
their
we
talking
get to
points on the
where we
economy
are,
a
not
week
only
ago.
our lack of preparation for the virus. but
I
how we
believe,
end
I've
up
said since
with
the
an
beginning, I
economy
believe
where
the
so many
economy
of
is going to
our
go
people
up
are
and down
hurting
and up and down
at
and
a
up and
time
down,
of
depending
massive
on the news
income
of the
and wealth
day.
inequality. It is time
Because
to
it's
ask
not, there's
this-
no concrete
the question
economic
of where
reason,
the power
except for
is
the oil
in
war.
America.
That is an X factor.
Who owns
But there's no
the
real
media? Who
concrete
owns
supply and demand reason why the economy
Who
should
owns
go down. It's
the
just people
legislative
reacting,
process? Why do we
investors
give
reacting
tax
to
breaks to billionaires
uncertainty.
and not raise
So
the
on
minimum
days
wage?
when it seems like there's a
Why do
plan,
we pump
the
up
market's probably going to
the
do really
oil
well. Like
industry
yesterday, it
while
jumped
500,000
2,000
people
points or
are
whatever the
homeless
fuck it
in
was.
America?
It was actually
This is
a
time to move
historic jump.
aggressively, dealing with the
But
coronavirus
then
crisis,
before that, when it
to
seemed
deal
like the
with
government was kind of
economic
muddling
fallout,
around and didn't
but it's
really have a
also
clear
a time to
path, and
rethink
Nancy
America
Pelosi was kind of
and
being
create a
an
country
obstructionist,
where we care about each
the
other
market went to shit,
rather
right?
than a nation
So that's
of
probably going to
greed
happen.
and
We're going to have
corruption,
a lot of
which
back
is
and
what is
forth
taking
here.
place among the corporate elite.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Vice President Biden, what's your closing message tonight for those concerned about, affected by, or dealing with this virus?
Well, I survived the Spanish
Number one,
flu, and
As I said at the outset,
I remember telling Woodrow
I just
Wilson,
can't imagine what people are
who,
going
by the
through
way,
right
I'm going to
now.
appoint as my
who've
vice
lost
president.
someone
Did I tell
already.
you?
I can't imagine what
We're going to
people are
screen a
going
birth
through
of a
when they
nation in the
have
White
a
House.
mom. Like, for example, a good friend of ours is sitting outside the window of a nursing home where her mom is because she can't go in, trying to do sign language to her mom and through the window to be able to talk to her.
We
I can't
can't
imagine
forget
the
our
fear
Civil
and
War
I
veterans.
guess I can't imagine the fear and concern people have. Number one of the things that
These
I
guys
think
make
we
me
have to
proud I
understand
voted for Trump,
is
Roger
that this
Kushman
is an all
says.
hands on deck. This is, as someone said,
I learned
as you
about
did at the
roaches.
outset,
Oh, God.
This is
Oh,
bigger
God.
than any individual. This is bigger than yourself. This is about America. This is about the world.
We have to
This is
sniff
about
out the
how we
problem.
bring people together. And
We have
make
to
the kind of
grasp the
sacrifices
problem
we need to
about
make
the
to get
ears
this
and
done.
inhale deeply.
And so first and foremost, what we have to do is start to listen to the science again. As I said,
Yeah,
what we
Biden is
did, we
reading.
met, and what I'd be doing today, I'd be sitting down in the Situation Room literally every day like we did at the outset of other crises we had when we were in the White House. And pulling together
love
the best
kids
people,
jumping on my
not just
lap.
the United States, the world, and say, what is it? What are the prescriptive moves we have to take now to
How,
lessen
you're reading
this
off a
virus,
teleprompter.
to
How do
beat
you
it, to
how do
go
you
to
have
the point
fucking
where we can
gaffes?
Save more lives, get more people tested, get more people the kind of care they need. And then what do we do beyond that to make sure that the economic impact on them is in fact rendered harmless? That we in fact make sure every paycheck is met, every paycheck that's out there that the people are going to miss, that we keep people in their homes, they don't miss their mortgage payments, they don't miss their rent payments.
And they
Making
have
sure
to
that
have
they're gonna be able
access to
take
the
care
hot
of
tub.
education, and by the way, the education institutions are closing down right now. And so there's so many things we have to do. And in addition to that, what we have
Darn.
to do is we have to have
Good luck
the
finding a
best science
whole
in the
lot
world
of
telling
younger
us
voters
what
that
can stay
sympathize
open
with
and what
school
need to be
being closed
Like
down.
I said earlier, the idea that we're closing schools, which I understand, but not being able to provide lunches for people who, in fact, need the school lunch program to get by. The
Which is
idea
why we
that
spent
would
35 to
close any
40
place
minutes
that
talking
I
about
can
education
understand the decision made to close
while schools are
places
closed
where
down
100 or 50
for a
people
fucking
or more
virus
gather.
outbreak.
But how do you keep open the drugstore to make sure you can get your prescription? How do you deal with the things that necessarily have to be kept going? And what's the way
Like
to
I
do
said,
that? There
Lame
should be
Lame
a
says
national
Bernie
standard
better
for
than
that.
Biden,
Should be
period.
coming out
You
of
know,
the situation
like I
right
said, I
now.
think at least he's
And by
got a
the way, the single
grassroots
most
movement.
significant thing
He's
we can
actually
do
got
to deal with the
momentum.
larger problem
He
down the road
actually
of income
has
inequality
built
is get
a
rid of
constituency.
Donald Trump.
Biden has no
Donald
constituency.
Trump
He
has
has the support
exacerbated
of
every
everyone
single
who is
one
not the
of these
voters.
problems, both the
Like, I've never
immediate
seen a
urgent
Bernie-
need
I've
and
never seen a
how we're
Biden
going to
yard
hold
sign
people
anywhere.
harmless for the damage done
I
as a
literally walk
consequence
outside.
of this virus.
I still have
It's important
neighbors
we do
that
both.
have
Vice
Beto
President
yard
Biden,
signs.
Senator
Beto's been
Sanders,
out of the
I wanna
race
thank
for
you
what,
both for
2
being here
months?
tonight under these challenging and
I've
trying
still not seen a
circumstances. We
Biden
wish
bumper
both of
sticker
you
or
the
yard
best.
sign anywhere.
Our thanks as well to our partners at Univision. For Ilya Calderon and Dana Bash, I'm Jake Tapper.
Oh,
Thank you so
man.
much for watching. Please stay healthy, stay safe. Our coverage of both
It
tonight's
seems to me, in final estimation, it seems like Bernie kind of skated a lot of the issues. I think he hit Biden hard on a couple of things, but Biden had some rejoinders. Oh, God, watch Biden walk. Does that really, guys? Does that look like a fully fucking... Like, it looks like a guy who's just clinging to life. Anyways. Only the Democratic Party could find a way to rig a debate for Donald Trump. Anyway, so let's go ahead and jump into these questions here, because there's quite a few to get to. Okay, I read that one. Read that one. Grizzly. The Grizzly. I just wanted to send some money for the best man on alt tech fighting the good fight against the Dems. I just wanted to ask if you're looking forward to or are worried about Doom Eternal. At any rate, Godspeed. Doom Eternal doesn't look as good as the first one, to be honest. I mean, the last one, it's not the first Doom, obviously, but doesn't look as good to me as that, but I could be wrong. But I am looking forward to playing it. I'll certainly give it a shot. I mean, Bethesda has earned a little bit, or rather, id Software has earned a bit of deference for how good the last Doom was. Anyone who wants to watch my review of that, I mean, I came everywhere. Like, I'm still squeegeeing splooge off the fucking ceiling from that game. That was a great goddamn game. I love that there were no fucking iron sights. I was just like, holy fucking shit. I'm playing a shooter in 2016, and there's no butt fucking iron sights. Holy hell, thank you. I'm so sick to goddamn death of iron sights. I'm so sick of it. Because it's not how you handle a gun in real life. Yes, technically you hold the gun in front of your face, but that's not how your brain actually perceives shooting a gun. If you've ever fired a gun, your brain, just the way that it works, it kind of filters out extraneous information. So for all intents and purposes, in terms of how your brain perceives the act of aiming a gun, you're really only seeing the top of the gun. It's not like, yes, technically most of your vision is blocked, but your brain doesn't perceive it that way because it filters that all out. That's just the way the human brain works. At least if you're normal or whatever, you're focusing in on what you're aiming on, so you're not really focusing on the fact that a large amount of your vision is blocked out. But because of the way that video games work, they just cover 3/4 of the fucking screen with the bottom of a gun, and it actually makes it harder to aim, in my opinion. Obviously, lots of people are good at online shooters. I'm not saying it hinders anyone, but it's not natural. I don't actually think it's any better of an approximation of the act of firing an actual gun than simply having hip fire in a first-person shooter. Because at least you have the reticle. Like, having a reticle is arguably a little more accurate than an iron sight in terms of approximating what it's like to actually fire a gun. Just in terms of how your brain perceives it, I mean. I hope I explained that properly. But Mitchell Oates, says, nah, they're so old they think they're talking about the Spanish flu and beating the Kaiser. I think, well, we enacted income tax as a temporary measure to defeat Germany in World War I, so I'm sure any old day we'll get Kaiser Willie one of these days. Architect of Fate, what's the over-under on heart attack or stroke? I don't know. It looked like Bernie was about to stroke out a couple of times there, which was weird because they weren't even yelling or anything because there's no audience to play off of, and they didn't have any of the old familiar plants in the audience. So, but it was weird. Bernie still got kind of bug-eyed at regular intervals. Wise Guy says, Bernie's crappy heart versus Joe's crappy brain. Patrick Meredith, Dow futures are down 1,500 points. This is going to be economic carnage. It isn't Trump's fault, though. Again, it just rose 2,000 points, and I do believe it'll go down again. But, again, we've had this back and forth. It's going to rubber band. It's going to go back and forth. That's what I predicted as soon as all this started. And I still predict that. I maintain it. And thus far, that's exactly what's been happening. Minarchist 1973. Imagine Biden Steiner tag team versus English language. You take that back. Steiner is a master of the English language. My favorite Steinerism is when he was the ring announcer for TNA. And he was announcing, I forget, was it Samoa Joe he was calling fat? And he was like, now heading to the ring from the state of obesity. Oh, God. I said on Russo's show last week, I just want an all-Steiner wrestling show. I want him to be the it needs to be Steiner fighting Steiner with Steiner as the ring announcer and Steiner on color and play-by-play commentary. Please, God, somebody make that happen. Stephen Nizek, when will we see the razor sticks debate? What would we have to debate? Who started dressing that way first? I know who would win. No, I'm just fucking. I'm just fucking with you. Dustin Eaton, I'm waiting for Death to show up and say in a Chuck Norris-esque fashion, it's time. I love that moment in Invasion USA where he opens the fucking Laws Rocket tube. And just the look on fucking not Rutger Hauer's, what is his name? Richard Lynch's face. Great fucking movie. Then he blows him to shiny shitlets. Malco! Without the audience, this is depressing as hell. It really is. I think not having the audience, is it just me? Or did not having the audience make them seem even older? Because I think it lowered the energy level, which made you more cognizant of how fucking ancient they are. Like, it made me, there were a few times while I was watching where I was just like I didn't vocalize it, but I was just like, are these guys like kept alive by Egyptian magic? Or like, what am I watching? All right. It was like watching two old men like fight over the remote. It was really bad. Morgan Gray, I bet they would have a better response from those who watch if they were in a balcony. Yet another Muppet reference. Pitlin 44, the Rumble in the retirement home. Mitchell Oates, they call the VP the standby. Stephen Nizek, are we sure that even that the moderator is in the same room as Bernie and Biden? Are they just talking to a TV screen? No. That would be hilarious, though. Because Biden shambled over at the end, all unsteady looking. There's something up with Biden. I'm sorry. Like, it's not a meme anymore, guys. Like, there's something up with this dude. And if we get to the general election and Biden's the nominee, as it appears that he's going to be, and as I've predicted he probably is going to be, I do believe that issue does not go away. I think it compounds. You'll wind up with a Hillary situation where people are convinced, like, she's not well. Let's see here. Glow in the dark. Can you imagine Trump as the youngster to Bernie? That one guy. Oh, this is great. I should have said this. You cannot lie to America. a politician currently lying. Very true. Viewer newest, thank you for streaming this on YouTube. You are truly a man of the people. Godspeed. Godspeed, sir. We had the Twitch channel on standby just in case. You could check the description. But we didn't need it because CNN are not CBS. You have to understand, CBS and the whole Viacom thing. Viacom are such copyright trolls. They're actually the entire reason we have a copyright system on YouTube. They sued YouTube many years ago, as many of you probably know. And that's the whole reason we have the copyright system, because YouTube, basically, the lawsuit is suspended. And to show due diligence, YouTube enacted the copyright ID the content ID system to show they're like serious about cracking down on copyright, so that Viacom doesn't come for their nuts again. Okay, K2, it's like watching a Saturday Night Live skit. You take that back. There were no punchlines there. Tom Fitton, both need to be wearing Joker makeup right now. Cold Summer 91. You know, honestly, even without the makeup, Biden gets halfway fucking there. Have you seen, like, the Joker photos of fucking Biden? It's uncanny. You don't even have to Photoshop it. Cold Summer 91. When do you think coronavirus will die? I think we'll start... In America, it depends... I mean, you can't make any concrete predictions because I don't know how everyone's going to do with the self-isolation. I suspect we're going to do pretty well, honestly, except in major cities that are not spread out. I think this is going to be more of a problem in places, let's put it this way, in cities that built up instead of out. This is going to be a major issue. Like in NYC, in Boston, Cincinnati, San Francisco, places with small surface area but a high concentration of population, it's going to be a bigger issue. But in cities like LA, which is more spread out, or San Diego, you're going to have cases and it's going to spread. But I think it's going to be less of an issue just because you have more distance between people, plain and simple. So, you know, I'm glad I live in Phoenix because we definitely built out instead of up, rather. But yeah, you definitely see that. I think that's one of the reasons it traveled like wildfire in China, is because so many cities in China built up instead of out. Okay, GI Guy Joe. Oh, but to answer more directly your question, I think probably by May, especially early May, where, you know, the old saying, April showers bring May flowers, you're probably going to have a lot of rainfall with sort of the monsoon thing going on in April. And then when the temperatures start to heat up, you'll actually have a really ideal situation because coronavirus apparently is really affected by humidity. Heat and humidity is not conducive to survival of the coronavirus, or rather, more correctly, to spread of it, apparently. It's harder for it to aerosol, I guess. I apologize. I don't mean if I'm spreading disinformation. I have heard this. This is what I heard, like, looking up stuff that the CDC had said and stuff. So, from what I understand, humidity is a mitigating factor in the spread, at least, of coronavirus. So I think the very beginning of May, you might see a fall off in cases. But that's my best guess, and a lot of it depends on how well everybody self-quarantines, to be honest. So, you know, don't go out unless you have to, and when you go out, as I said in my original coronavirus video, get gloves and wear them. Just do it. Just because you have gloves doesn't mean they have to be uncomfortable or make you hot. You don't have to get insulated gloves or whatever. You can just get leather gloves or whatever. And, of course, take them off before you come inside. And then, you know, when you come home, you have to take them off immediately and then wash your hands, too, because fabric does breathe. But, yeah, just be careful. GI Guy Joe, is it bad that I feel bad for Bernie given he won't get to be a dark mirror for the DNC and scare them back towards moderation? Godspeed to him and Godspeed to you, great leather rebel. Well, this is honestly a bad thing for the DNC. As I said in one of my Bernie videos, periodically a party has to kind of go far in one direction or another. And periodically that is going to be the organic movement that is guiding the party. And what's happening is the Democratic Party is so desperate to win the presidency back that they keep forestalling that and kicking that can down the road. Man, I can't imagine the next time around, because you can see how extreme it's getting now. Some of the statements that were spoken, even by Biden at this point, some of the shit that has been normalized, like the moment where they both basically admitted, like, I don't want any illegal immigrants to ever be deported. And illegal immigrants are entitled to free health care and shit like just these would have been inconceivable positions like even 10 years ago. Hell, fuck, even 5 years ago. These would have been Looney Tunes fucking positions, to much less to be spoken out loud on a debate stage. And yet here we are. So I think the next time around, God, it's probably going to be someone, it's not going to be her, but like it's going to be more of an Ocasio-Cortez kind of situation, where it's going to be a younger person probably re-espousing the Bernie Sanders platform. And I can't imagine how much more extreme it's going to get. Because in 2016, it was pretty extreme. In 2020, it's gotten even farther left. So the longer you kick this movement down the road, it's just going to keep gathering steam and get more and more extreme until finally, like, you're going to have to deal with it eventually. You can't play the delegate math game for much longer. Eventually, the organic movement's going to overtake you. Glow in the dark didn't realize senior positions in government was taken so literally. Jagerbomb, when will we get a hint that China doesn't have our or the world's best interests in mind? Shouldn't coronavirus be becoming global pandemic drive... Oh, I see. Shouldn't coronavirus becoming a global pandemic drive that point home? Yeah, I have to agree on that one. Ethan Johansson, we ate the seed corn? No, we didn't. There's still piles of feed corn at our all-grain elevators yet. What the fuck? At our grain elevators yet? Seed corn deliveries next month. I assume I'm talking about what they were talking about, farms or whatever. Mario Carter 13, billionaires can afford toilet paper. Poor get the New York Times. And the elite get the copies of the Communist Manifesto. Hot Wings, mainstream news is the real virus. You're not telling lies, unlike both men on stage tonight. Bradley Roberts, let's see if Joe's eye bleeds out. Mian Zartan? Apologize if I mispronounced that. The Telemundo token is swimming in that fake accent. Shit. That accent was thicker than the stack of phone books Bloomberg was standing on for most of those debates. Glib facsimile. Biden. Trump can't solve this. Bernie. M4A. Medicare for all would. Bjorn Thor Gudmundsson. While you make this debate more tolerable, I need some fucking whiskey if I'm going to listen to these broken records. Biden hears you talking about broken records. He's going to break out the Victrola and start winding it up. Brian, please turn up dementia debate a little bit. Yeah, sorry. We got hit for copyright last time, so I didn't want to take the chance. Tom Fitton, I feel like a better choice is Emperor Palpatine. Would be a far better candidate than Abbott and Costello here. His slogan shall forth be, do it. Howard Walters, we can't let the virus destroy our britches. Andrew Levin, what's your take on Tim Pool? I think he's fine. I mean, I don't watch him regularly, so I can't judge his coverage or whatever. But, you know, whatever. I think it's complicated. Bjorn Thor Gunmundsson. If I'm going to listen to these broken records, I need some rum. Yo ho ho. DeWall, the firm went poof into the wind. No wonder you're still on. And here I was preparing the jump and run and try to find your stream somewhere else. Just a moment here. All right, Stealth Creations. The DNC media complex is scared of this old fart. Let's not forget DNC is bankrupt, so if anything, socialism that bankrupts should be feared. Yeah, factual. And maybe that is ultimately the great schism between the corporate money interests that basically run the Democratic Party and a socialist who wants to hike taxes on everyone, including corporations. Here we go. Matt, that feeling when Trump wants to reduce income tax to 0 while Dems want to spend more money. By the way, love the content, Razor. Keep up the great work. Godspeed. Thank you. Joe Biden, Corn Pop, and I really like that one John Carpenter movie with Kurt Russell. What's it called? Oh, you know, the thing. Andrew McGraw, goodness, just look at Biden's face. He looks lost. Both men kind of look lost, but Bernie looked angry and lost. Titan 764. Actually, hold on. Let's listen to some of this post.
To the we, and we will get through this more quickly. They're living a moment right now. People are looking at Trump differently right now because of the
look at
exigencies
CNN
that
trying to
are real.
frame
It's not
this.
theoretical. That was the floor of the debate. How did each gentleman handle it, in your opinion?
And clearly Biden won that debate. He looked presidential tonight. You know, I liked where he said, I'm going to commit the military. We're going to come out. And use the
Terry
military to
McAuliffe
build
is
hospitals.
so
he
fucking
had
full of
concrete
shit.
ideas. Senator Sanders kept trying to get back to Medicare for all and getting on different.
I speak from
healthcare
local
rabbit
experience.
holes.
Holy
People are
fucking
sitting home
shit.
today,
What a
so I'm
shyster.
terrified of COVID-19. I don't know what to do. Restaurants, bars are closing.
Well,
I
go
to the
go
grocery
figure.
store,
The guy who
all the
endorsed
aisles
Biden
are
thinks
empty. I
Biden
don't
did
know what to
well.
do. So they wanted
Anyway,
to see
sorry, back to your chats real quick. Titan 764, dear God, the black and white really brings out Biden's liver spots. To be honest, it was pretty obvious in color, too. Mike D, boomers! Not even boomers, they're too old for that. Jim Keel, you bet they bring up getting Trump tested. Zine Ombine, I like how they call Biden Vice President Biden as if Obama is still in office. It just keeps happening. This is just so meme-worthy. Oh, it's 100% deliberate. It's optics. They've been doing it since the very beginning. Biden's the presumptive nominee, so they have to associate him with being the vice president already, because it's like, oh, well, he's practically president already, right? It's kind of, you know, Trump has played that card too. Trump made a very wise call. I've talked about this before in the 2016 election, where he started having all of his rallies in aircraft hangars. And he did that because, number one, he could pack more people in. Number two, he could get from rally to rally faster and pack more in a day. And number three, he got to come down from not Air Force One, but from Trump Force One, walk down the tarmac with the hat on and his wife in the pantsuit waving. He got to look presidential. It was like he was halfway to being president to begin with. So, look, these kind of optics matter. And CNN, they want Biden to be president, so, you know, they're going to... Look, they're the propaganda wing of the Democratic Party at this point, so they're going to call him Vice President Biden. Sleepwalker would take office in January running on the virus. Yeah, that's the thing. If we look at South Korea right now, where now for 2 or 3 straight weeks, I mean, we're going to be going on a month pretty soon here. South Korean cases are now down. I mean, this broke out in South Korea in December, January, something like that. So you're probably looking at like a 3-month span if you deal with it well. I mean, I don't think it'll be that big of an issue by the time November rolls around. But that, again, that depends on how we deal with it. It could wind up being a long and lingering issue if we do not self-quarantine and wash our hands and take care of those things, you know? Let's see. Casbiness. These guys should go back to heckling Kermit the Frog from the balcony. I agree. Calico Kid. I think Bernie's hair saw the Ark of the Covenant. I think Biden saw the Ark of the Covenant, actually. He himself. And, oh, fuck. Let's update these. God, I hate when it updates the chats. Give me just a second, guys. Okay, there we go. The DCV Titan. Or the First Amendment. I assume you're talking about the second. Composite Frylock, Sanders and Biden, socialism or dementia? I look forward. I greatly look forward to the general election. Trump v. Biden. The Russian plot versus the grave plot. Mario Carter 13. I can't change the system. Government won't fund my campaign. Hikaru K. Why am I listening to this? Tell me why 2 decrepit white men should convince this half-black trans girl to abandon PDT. Scarlock. Joe bleeding beady eye Biden. I think I like Sleepy Joe better. It's pithier. Far better. My life is a complex pastiche. What's a lesbian's favorite music genre? Country. Core Tenebrae. The Grumpy Old Men remake isn't exactly what I thought it'd be. Hey, you made that joke before I did. Sorry, I didn't even see that. Okay, here we go. Abhuman Theskrug, brought to you by the Alphabet Soup Media. Mumra versus Skeletor. Oh, you take that back. Skeletor has way better definition than these guys. I mean, fuck. Have you seen a more muscular skeleton in your life than Skeletor? Who will disintegrate first? Place your bets now. The American people. I think I already read that one. Howard Walters, more people in this chat than a Bernie rally. More people in this chat, actually, than generally watch a Bernie rally on Facebook or whatever. I remember a few weeks ago, Trump had a rally and Bernie had a rally at the same time, both streamed on Facebook. Trump had like 5 times the viewers. Thank you, Mr. Naughty Priest. Demaster012, Nixon, I'm not a crook. Biden, I'm not a kook. Edifice of Echoes. Yo, Razor, would you ever do a Legacy of Kain / Soul Reaver, I assume, stream? I have tried to get that running. I have tried. It will not work on PC. It just won't. And what's worse, it won't work with a controller either, which sucks. Like, I try joy to key programs and shit like that, and it just, man, it won't recognize joysticks. It won't fucking do anything. And I would love to. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Primark Mustard. Biden should charge Sanders and yell old man fight. Yes. Abhuman the Scrug? Abhuman the Scrug? 2 white fossils arguing over shows. They actually are Waldorf and Statler, but accidentally funny. I don't know how accidental it is, considering how fucking orchestrated this entire primary process has been. Roughneck MP. This reboot of Grumpy Old Men is horrible. What the fuck? 2 people made that joke before I did. Well, it's not that original an observation. Uncle Tickles, the Dandy Man in the Candy Van, says Keto 2020. It's a good thing Eve wasn't in earshot for that. Erudite Fuzz, I'm suspicious that Bernie's still in Spillery's pocket just to draw the far left or get their votes. All that dark money and more softballs than 2016 seems like more than the DNC treading eggshells. Controlled opposition is a real thing. Howling Fang 6258, listen here, Bernie. Listen here, Bernie. You know that the only way back is a problem to get in a minor league car accident. Biden, probably. Demaster012. The DNC are acting like they've already won, ready to install Biden as a puppet. I suspect treason-level voter fraud. How do we prevent / fight this? Vote in such numbers that they can't even skew the election. Honestly. Because if it's so visible, not only if so many people vote for Trump that it's literally visible on election day, people standing in line to vote for Trump, they will be unable to control the narrative. Let's see here. Only a couple more. I just got a Pressitron. I just got here. What the fuck is going on with Joe's face? Age. Age and some really poor plastic surgery decisions. Andrew McGraw, Sanders, universal brain care will ensure that no one has to think for themselves. We owe it to Americans to ensure everyone is equally oppressed. Gamer Valine, I'm in Chandler, and all I'm hearing is we need more public services, like more buses for the one person I see using the bus on Dobson and Chandler Boulevard. Fuck. Wait till they extend that fucking light rail there. Fuck that shit. Stupid fucking Mr. Rogers trolley. But that'll be like a goddamn ghost town during this coronavirus shit. I mean, it already is. Nobody rides the damn thing now. It's so fucking stupid. What is it with Democrats and fucking light rail? Like, what the fuck? And it's always some California like transportation mogul or something. Dave DeSave, 26. If I went around saying I was president because some moistened bint lobbed a scimitar at me, they'd lock me away. Muso Duccio. Whoop. Hold on. I think I read that. Nope. Boppity boopity. You know, politics in my times were more fun. Free beer and beatings to socialists with clubs. Either way, I found the one place socialists and commies go to fade away. DeviantArt. Ciao. Some more missives from the Muso. Christian Thurber, what is your opinion on lawyers who hate constitutionalist judges? Do the lawyers know what they are arguing? Pardon me. What they're arguing for, or are they misled or mistaught? Lawyers can be liberals too. Fuck, they often are. Look at the ACLU. Dave DeSave, 26. If it's Hillary, he'll be dead in a week. Fuck, have you seen Biden? Even if it's not Hillary, he may be dead in a week. Fuck, if they get anywhere near... If they've been doing campaign events in the middle of a coronavirus outbreak, they may be dead in a week anyway. Both of them are closing in on 80. Eyes set on the horizon. Reminder, both of them support red flag laws. Yes, they do, and Biden supports even worse. Muso Duccio, P.S. Muso, what's a Verdun rematch? You verse Muso on the field of onions and honor. Boppity boopity to you, good sir, and may the best grenade maniac win. You know, I hear Muso doesn't perform too well in a trench when a grenade goes off. I hear shrapnel is kind of his kryptonite. That and meat hooks. Anyway, Jay Lee, 7329. Why do you think Warren's suddenly backing him up? Did Warren actually endorse someone? I have been, like, not involved in the Democratic primary the last week. I've been busy preparing for the fucking Mad Max post-apocalypse. Did she finally endorse Biden or Bernie? Somebody want to set me straight on that? Hold on. Oops. Yeah. Da-da-da-da. Sorry, I'm watching the live chat. She supported Biden? Okay. I mean, that's not that surprising. She had such problems with Bernie, even though she basically mimeographed Bernie Sanders' positions. Does that not tell you how in the tank the DNC is for Biden at this point? I mean, when even Warren is coming on board and she's literally got a copy-paste of Bernie Sanders' positions. I mean, it's obviously not about principle or politics at that point. It's 100%, oh my God, Bernie's on the screen. Okay. Angarod 256, in a sane country, someone would be wondering how all those hourly wage people whose businesses are being closed by the government are going to feed their families. But whatever, the compassionate left has a panic to foment. Well, they did pay lip service to it for 5 seconds, so I guess that counts. Aaron Einer, sending my question again, now that we're near the end, what do you think the odds are of any New England state turning red? It depends on what state you're talking about. Some of those states have a little bit more of a red streak in them than others. It just depends. You know, like, Connecticut is pretty fucking blue, but there's also a bit of a red streak in there. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain states in that region. I don't know if Connecticut technically is New England. But, like, in that general area, there are some states that are a bit more red. And even like Massachusetts has elected certain Republicans here and there. But they're usually kind of rhinos. So it just depends. In general, though, I don't think the prospect of all of New England going red is an immediate prospect. I don't. I do think Trump is probably going to perform better there than some other candidates in recent memory, though, just because the Democrats are so fucking clueless, to be honest. I mean, after tonight's performance, if you're convinced the Democrats are thundering toward a fucking victory, I don't know. Coronavirus or no, economic catastrophe or no, and to be perfectly blunt, I said on last night's stream, a coronavirus scare followed by an economic downturn, yes, it could hurt Trump, but to be honest, it can 100% be reverse engineered to help Trump too. It really could go either way. That's the problem with fomenting panic, is that panic, once induced, can go any way. It's wild. It will go in any direction at any given moment. You can't control it at that point. So if Trump seizes that to his advantage, it can become more of a, okay, it's not really time to change horses midstream, right? If we look historically, there have been at least as many points in history where we've been in the middle of a crisis and the people have latched on to the candidate in office and actually reelected the incumbent by an even wider margin, as there have been cases where the incumbent has been kicked out of office because people were dissatisfied with their performance during the crisis. I mean, that's a historical fact in American history. So it really could go either way. I honestly think it's almost a mulligan. In terms of the coronavirus and an economic downturn. Because it could go either way, I just say it's basically a non-factor. And it really has more to do with the weakness of the DNC field. The same story that's been the case for the last several months. I think it's advantage Trump. He has the incumbent advantage, and he has the advantage of being up against Biden, a shockingly weak candidate who is way past his prime, and Bernie Sanders, who is just not electable based on his positions and prior statements. I don't think Bernie expected to be hit as hard on the Castro thing as he has been, but he shouldn't be surprised. It wasn't that well. The video of him praising Castro and Nicaragua and so forth was not that well circulated in 2016. Like, yeah, it was out there, but only in right-wing circles. Now it's in mainstream media. Now it's being played on CNN and shit. So I think he shouldn't be surprised that he was hit so hard over it. Okay, Crimson Ghost 013. Is it possible Biden's just a Trojan horse for whatever commie the DNC chooses for him, with Biden stepping down shortly after inauguration? Yeah, that'd be curious. That's pretty much the only way Kamala would have any chance of being in the White House. Glow in the dark. If they don't water Bernie and Biden, which will crumble to dust first? Do you think anything going to happen to China over COVID? What, in terms of repercussions? No, they've paid off all the right people. No. The Orange Ninja Turtle. Your opinion of Styx Hexenhammer. I think he's fucking awesome. I've recommended his videos a million times on my fucking channel, and I will recommend him in the future. I think he's doing great stuff with regard to coronavirus. He and I and several other people, I'm not taking credit for this. I think Styx was ahead of me on talking about coronavirus in a video. I kind of wanted to wait and see what the fuck happened. But he was one of the first people, along with me and Molyneux and several other people, talking about coronavirus and warning people, just be prepared, just in case. No face required. There are rumors going around that the Tokyo Olympics might be canceled. Yeah, I've heard that. If that happens, will we officially be in the Akira timeline? Wow, I didn't think about that. Allosaurus, Razorfist 2020, and Uncle Tickles. I can't read yours, so let me see if I can find it on Streamlabs. Oh, there we go. Uncle Tickles, the Dandy Man in the Candy Van says, so who earned your primary vote? Oh, Bill Weld, of course. Right? Of course! Naturally! No, I think the Sweet Meteor of Death earned my vote. Die Ghostfish, where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from? Bleeding Joe. Leviathan Gunship, wish there was a spreadsheet to give us a measurable ratio of Razor predictions to fuck you, I was right moments. I'm sure that discussion is alive and well on Twitter, but I don't Twitter. That's a worthy endeavor, I think. Mercenary X, are we sure Joe is even a real person at this point? Are we sure Joe is a real person at this point? Only a few more. Soul Vizier, I'm still getting over the fact they had the gall to compare Irish refugees to Mexican illegals. No shit. Phil Guy, what do you think of the People's Republic of China pulling its PR stunts? It's all to avoid culpability, and also because, as I said, let's say it all together now, #1 foreign donator to the DNC is China. So if China wants the Democrat to be in the White House because they get more payouts when a Democrat's in the White House, why would they not want to make Trump look bad? Which, by the way, if you want to get technical, that's more election meddling than Russia did in 2016. I mean, that's explicit. Okay. Die Ghostfish again. Joe Biden's so hard on guns because he never got over King George III. King George III telling him he was too old to help confiscate the cannons at Concord. Betrayed British birthright. Watching the debates reminds me the UK once had a law banning people from voting if they took a public salary or welfare payment. P.S. New archive soon. Yes. And that's it. Okay, folks. Thank you for joining me here on Streaming for Vengeance. Hopefully we don't have another one of these. Hopefully we have a nominee in the next few weeks. And hopefully both these guys get the coronavirus and fucking die. I'm Razorfist. Thank you for joining me. God fucking speed.